horses.
Welcome back. Episode uno, dos, tres. Episode 3 of the
Pass
the Bag podcast. Who are you?
Something. My name is Robert Edward Patterson II, and I have many names. I'm not going to say any of them right now. You can call me anything that's respectful.
I love that. I am Adrian Black, and this is the Pass the Bag podcast.
Because it is not enough just to get the bag.
You got to know how to keep that bag.
And if you want to keep that bag,
you got to share the bag. Now, kindly pass the bag. I want to tell the people where we at. We are at the home of the dopest fashion coming out of New York City.
Boom.
In Shenzhen, we are at Fried Rice NYC in Upper Hills.
Fried Rice.
Check by here anytime. They just released their new line of Fried Rice T-shirts.
Yeah, boy.
You can see them behind us.
Check it out.
We got the New York Taxi version.
Hey.
I think that's my favorite.
That's
I love
right.
this one. New York Taxi version. We got the college, the classic college tee.
That's right. So you can get your education. Get your Fried Rice education.
We got the classic surf tee right here, California style.
California love.
All our vatos and locos out in L.A.
Woo!
And
California love.
And the Ramones, the Ramone punk rocker style.
That might be my favorite right there.
That might be his favorite. I got that one.
Favorite.
That one in white. It's really, really high quality stuff, high quality cotton, like the way the Japanese do it, because the Japanese do it best.
I fought the law.
Let's be honest. Let's just be real.
Fuck the law.
And so you can get that.
Is that the
You
Ramone?
can get if you buy it right now on Taobao for everybody here in,
What's the
in
special?
China. If you buy it right now on Taobao, you can get it for, I think it's $268. What? $268?
$268.
That's a great deal.
$268. High quality fashion coming out of New York City, representing here in Shenzhen. Shout out to the PRC, Guangdong, going strong.
So if you go on Taobao and you buy it, make sure you put in the comments that you Pass the Bag sent you. To say,
yeah, absolutely.
Just Pass the Bag.
Let them know Pass the Bag sent you.
Because then they'll enter you for the chance to win up to 1,000 quads, like $12.88 in store credit.
You know, also I want to let them know that this lovely fashion right here is coming straight up out of Fried Rice too.
Oh, that's fresh.
You know? Yeah,
that's fresh.
Got to stay fresh with it.
That's fresh.
You know, this one of them 40 deuce. You know, taking them back to the 80s with it. Yeah. All right.
Yeah, boy.
Most definitely.
New York,
listen,
Bronx, Brooklyn.
We have a very, very special podcast going on right now, because if you don't know, the world is very different now. That was a sample coming out of 3 Times Dope. Shout out to Philly. The world is very different now, y'all. I'm gonna tell y'all. You know, my good brother, Mr. Black, and I, we said to ourselves, it's some things that we're not gonna feel responsible if we don't bring to the people. And especially, you know, you guys out there who really have been supporting us the whole time. Those of you domestically, you know, our family, our friends, you know, we're thinking of you. We love you. Our hearts are with you. And so, you know, we really just want to take some time so that we can dedicate what it is that we feel like needs to be prioritized, you know, linking that up with this podcast and bringing it to y'all. So that's what I got to say about the situation before we get into the situation.
Quick disclaimer, we're going to have a very open and free dialogue today, and we won't hold back any punches. We're probably going to say some things in the most potentially offensive way possible.
It's probably going to get volatile.
So if you have children that listen to the Pass the Bag podcast, please listen with them. And there might be some words that you don't want them to hear at their young age. And so this is our disclaimer.
Hey-o.
This one might not be for the kids. Maybe you listen first, and then if you think it's okay for your child to hear it, then
definitely for the family. But for the kids alone?
For the kids, no. Not yet.
No bueno.
Not today.
No bueno.
So,
because we're going to talk about some things like what? Like violence.
Yeah.
Violence is going to be in there.
Hatred, bigotry.
How about that?
Discrimination.
How about that?
And just
there's always some sex
outright
and sexuality, because we feel like that's important. I just want to let y'all know. I feel like every day that goes by that you don't manage a piece of that is like a person who uses the bathroom and doesn't clean yourself.
Another quick announcement. I know you guys were waiting for Pass the Bag episode 2, but we had some technical difficulties last week.
Oh, no!
So we're going to get it to you. We're going to get it to you, I promise. It's going to take some time. I need some time. So episode 3 will come out.
What had happened was...
Episode 2.
What had happened
was... You'll get it.
There was an elephant.
Let's get into the bags.
broke into his apartment
No elephants.
with a ninja get up on and everything, and tiptoed across the floor, and
With the cartoon sound effects.
that's right,
And
and sat on the episode.
Is
2.
this a bag of gold or is this a bag of shit?
Which bag is this? You decide. You tell us.
You tell us. You can email us at passthebagpodcast@gmail.com. You can hit us up on Instagram. Hit us up in our WeChat group. Join our WeChat group.
Wait,
We'd love
hold
for you
on.
to do that.
Let me say something. In the name of vulnerability, that kind of emotional vulnerability that we feel like is important here at Pass the Bag.
Booger in my nose.
No, you have no boogers.
Okay.
It's just your nose.
That's
It's a good nose.
Good nose.
You know, even before I came here today, I could feel it. You know, I could feel the energy. I could feel the yeah, absolutely. I felt some sort of way even before we came here to get into the show. And I had to scan my body and I had to say, what is going on with me this morning? And I told myself I was going to have all of the healthiest practices, you know, on the way here. And I did a little bit of acting out. I didn't quite make it. So, you know, I feel like that part was important to say. And I don't know if you want to check in on that or not, or we can just go straight into the first bag.
I'm ready to get into the bag.
Let's get into it. Bag of Issh
Is
or
it a bag of gold or a bag of Issh?
Let's go.
Did you know
Did I?
that white people get killed by the police too?
Holla at me. Let me know what it is.
So, I was reading this amazing article from, I think it's the Washington Post.
All right.
Great news outlet when it comes to getting quality factual information.
All right.
And they put out this amazing article about how white people can compartmentalize police brutality and black people have to deal with it. And so, and the link of the article will be in the comments below, so you can get it. And if you're in our WeChat group, I'll send it out. But they told a story. They started the article with a story about this guy named Daniel Shaver. And Daniel Shaver is like a human being labeled white. And he was killed by an officer like in a stop when he went to reach to pull up his pants. And the officer shot him. And it got caught on body cam. And the worst thing about it is the officer ended up, you know, getting suspended, but he got reinstated. Like, he's working again. And so, which brought me to the idea that, you know, cops may shoot and kill twice as many white people as black people. But when you think about proportions, there are about 6 many in the States. There are 6 times as many white people as black people in the States. So it brings me to the question, what does the percentage of white deaths say about law enforcement?
Well,
while we get into this whole conversation today about
first I want to say I remember seeing that video years ago. And even just thinking about that video turns my stomach. Because I saw the video and I saw the police officer running after the guy. As the guy was walking away, the cop had his gun drawn and was running after the guy. I saw the video. And the dude just literally just turned around and, you know, because he was wearing his pants low, went to pull up his pants and cop shot him dead. You know, to get back to the question, and the question is, what is the percentage of so-called white folks getting killed by law enforcement? What does that say, the percentage of deaths? What does it say about law enforcement? Well, it says that it doesn't say anything that we haven't already heard. I barely even want to say the words because I feel like they've been said so much, and I just want to lean on doing something different. But, you know, for fear of alienating the audience, I'll just go ahead and say, man, look, law enforcement needs to change. That's what I'm going to say. That's the writer side of me. Right. Say it in as few words as possible to make it as potent as possible. It needs to change in a way where these types of things happen a lot less and don't happen, period.
Yeah. I think the fact that it doesn't just happen to racial minorities based on the idea what race is created by, you know, scientists. The fact that it doesn't just happen to the 80s or the Latin community or the Native American community, but it also happens to white people just lets me know how systemic the problem is. Because if it didn't happen to white people and it only happened to brown people and people of the different hues, then I would say that the problem is may not be systemic, but it might just be racism.
Was that information new for you? Was that when you found that out?
No,
about
no, no,
the-
no. It wasn't new. The information wasn't new at all because, I mean, police. That's the thing. Like, when officers have, a gun, they have a certain level of power that is irreversible if it goes bad. Like if an officer pulls his gun and shoots someone, because they have that power, then in certain instances it can lead to a negative outcome. And so in them having that power and wielding that power, it leads to situations where people lose their lives. And I mean, obviously, the stats include, like, so when you conclude this, like, these not just unarmed
What you really
people.
want to say? I feel like you really want to say something.
I feel like, man, there have been instances where just like cops get off on shooting people sometimes, and that's the most potentially offensive way to say it. And because they yield a certain amount of power, that's just
I feel
undeniable.
I feel like you've done a great job of introducing the topic that lets us know, right, that this isn't just a black thing, right, or a so-called black thing. And I think that that's important, right, because even the conversations that we have where we talk about, not alienate our viewers, right, or
Right.
even me, because I'm gonna let you guys in on something. Me personally, I feel like I get exhausted talking about race stuff because
You both do.
because for me well, let me say specifically then, from a place of where I feel like exhausted, where I'm like, it's less about the violence and it's less about any of that, and it's more about that I feel like the more that people place people in those labels, that they're being agents of racism. That's where my exhaustion comes from, me specifically. And so I think that this is a great topic to introduce.
Yeah.
Because, right?
And that's why we wanted to
sometimes-
start here. That's why we wanted to start here with the fact that the problem is systemic and it's not just a racial problem.
Also,
because white people are dying too.
Also, we're from the States.
Yeah.
And so that means that we know that there's going to be a high possibility, right, that there's going to be more so-called white folks who are viewing this,
Yeah.
Than people who, don't have that mandate, right?
Right.
So it's important that we tell you that we know that this is happening to folks who are so-called white folks also.
And there is a pushback when people go and get in an uproar because of like the whole Black Lives Matter movement. When people get in an uproar when it happens to a black person, but you have to consider, and the article really pointed this out really well. It's an amazing article. You have to consider the fact that the proportions.
Yeah, absolutely.
The proportions. There's just as many black people that die at the hands of as at the hands of police officers as white people, but there's 6 times as many white people as it is black people.
Only 18%.
Only, not even that, like 13. And the number goes down.
6 to 1.
The number goes down all the time, so it's like 6 to 1. So that's why people get in an uproar about it, because it happens to white people too, and that's valid, and that's really valid, and that proves that the problem is not just racism, but it's a systemic power problem. It proves that, the fact that it also happens to a lot of white people, but doesn't mean that the problem's still not there's not a racial element there, because it happens. And it doesn't even have to do with neighborhoods either, because the article points out that the amount of killings that happen to unarmed citizens, the amount of crime in the area doesn't change the percentages. So it's not based on, like, it happens in certain areas more than it happens in other areas when it comes to, police killing unarmed people.
Yeah,
it happens everywhere.
We're gonna make sure you guys can access that article anywhere that you guys can access the podcast.
Yep.
Just in case there be some individuals out there who feel like we maybe not representing their reality, or they have too much of an outside looking in. Right. A pig is a pig.
Right.
I'm gonna say that part. If you're not a crooked cop, great. I love you. Thanks for doing your job.
Yeah.
If you are not a crooked cop and you have crooked cops around you and you're not standing up to them, I'm going to say you can be doing better. And if you are a crooked cop, I have a big resounding fuck you very much going out to you. Shout out to you.
And so another pushback follow-up is that comes in these conversations is what about black on black crime, right?
Hey, Black, I'm gonna tell you right now. When we did the meeting, I didn't even pay enough attention to this because I don't even like that question. But what angle are you asking that question from?
Because that's the angle of the pushback, right? It's like, oh yeah, like you get mad.
Who does that pushback come from?
Lots of people, all types of people. I mean, it doesn't just
come. Some example.
It comes from. I mean, I don't want to generalize. I don't want to take a generalization and then turn around and make a
your experience, you see the pushback coming from where?
I see the pushback coming from privileged individuals, and I say that, and I don't mean that racially at all.
Okay.
I just mean privileged in general,
right?
Because I've heard privileged black people say it too.
Okay.
So
they say, what about black on black crime?
But that's the thing, like violence is a United States of America thing. It's not a black thing. It's not a white thing. Like, America, the states have been violent as long as there's been violence. You know, like violence begets violence. It was created in violence.
I'm just gonna say this part.
It was born out of violence.
The part for me about black on black crime is like the less breath that I give it, I feel like usually the better off that I'm doing because, you know, I understand smoke and mirrors and things like that. I feel like it's like, yo, most violent crime in the States. Now, people can trip out about police and all the rest of that. But most violent crime in the States is domestic violence and crimes of passion. If you're going to get murked in the States, you are most likely you're going to be taking a dirt nap because of somebody who knew you very well, right? Or somebody who's a part of your own community. And because we know that the States is, you know, segmented off into these communities, when people say stuff like, what about black on black crime? I usually want to say to them, you're kidding me, right? Like, you really want me to speak? You must not know about how violent crime works in the States in general. And if you don't, that's great. Because I come from a violent background and a violent life and all the rest of that. So it makes sense that I would know more about those things, right, than another person. Right. So I don't trip. And then there's also that point to where it's like, no, this information is very accessible to you. It's very accessible.
I wanna point out a poll that was in the article. There was a YouGov poll last year that found, because this is very important, and I think this is why I wanted to have this discussion. A YouGov poll last year found that black people were worried about being a victim of police violence more than being a victim of a violent crime.
Okay.
So I brought that up because I want to speak to the mindset that police brutality leads to.
All right.
Because of police brutality, you grow up believing that those who are meant to protect you are more dangerous than those that actually want to do you harm.
I got to ask this point. How is it that there's still a narrative about these people being meant to protect you that people even still talk about? Because that's what I want to know.
Because that's their whole protect and serve, man. And like, it's on the seal. Like, that's the whole point of the conversation, right? Like, that's the whole point of the entity. Like, okay, so let's talk about history, right? Where it was created. Overseer, officer. Like, police officers were created in order
slave catchers
to catch enslaved people, enslaved human beings that had been enslaved. Yeah. The police community was created just to catch them and to return them to slavery. So, I mean, it was born, again, out of violence and racism. So, but it goes back to that mentality that the average 80 Afro-European diasporic individual, the average 80 feels that they're more likely to be harmed by someone that their job now is to protect them versus someone who's actually, you know, a criminal.
You know what? I think you got to remember, I'm a little bit broken, right? And this is what I tell myself. That's me telling myself that I'm a little bit broken, you know, come from, you know, certain type of roughness and all the rest of that. So there's going to be a certain lack of being able to relate to a narrative of people who, you know, didn't have to go through what I went through or whatever, right? And some of it I put myself through, so I didn't have to go through all of it. Some of it I definitely didn't choose. So when I say to myself, I say, sir, you as a broken person, you got to be careful, and it's also okay for you to have this curiosity. The curiosity that I have is the narrative about the protecting and serving. I'm like, a lie is a lie is a lie, right? So whether it's on a seal or not, you know, like, I think that there's that part where it's like, let's look. being angry, being sad, all of that stuff, that's all cool. When you let it throw you off your square, that's when it's not cool, right? And so for me, I'm just sort of like, come on now, like, wake up. There's all types of ripoffs that get presented to you as something else. And in the end, a ripoff is still a ripoff, you know? So it's like, if a con man is going to con you one way, yeah, why get more PO'd? Now, I know the answer to the question, but I think it's a question that people would do well to ask themselves.
So what do you think is the overarching purpose of the police force? I would go.
They are the enforcement arm of the judiciary.
I was just about to say, I feel like they protect capitalism.
They are the enforcement arm of the judiciary, and the judiciary is there, right? The capitalism and the judiciary, they are sitting at the table together.
I would feel like they
sitting
are
at the table together.
Yeah.
You know, one person is, eating steak and potatoes. We talked about that in the lost episode too, right? And the other person is, eating pasta. That's what they do. Judiciary sits with capitalism, and they break bread, right? And the cops are the bodyguards outside. Yeah. We're looking for a Sparks Steakhouse event, though. Shout out to you who know your history. What's the next bet?
Let us know what you think, what your ideas are about this thing. Like, how do you feel? Do you think the problem with police brutality is a systemic problem, or do you think like it's a racial problem? Let us know. PassTheBagPodcast@gmail.com, at PassTheBagPodcast
What up,
on
Detroit?
IG.
We see you.
Holla at us. Let us know.
Hey, let's get into some emotional baggage.
The first half of the pod today, we're going to dissect this issue from all different types of angles, right? Because that's what you come to us for. You want our perspective on like what the bag is, what the true bag is.
We want to address it. We want to stretch it. We want to stress it. We want to do all of that. And so when we talk about this emotional baggage,
so everybody at this point, maybe you don't know, maybe you've been living under a rock, but there was an officer, his name in Minnesota. His name was Derek Chauvin. I think I'm saying that right.
DC, what up, baby? You bitch.
So disrespectful. Who killed an unarmed black man whose name is George Floyd.
Brother Floyd.
Big Floyd. And his wife, whose name is Kellie, she's from Laos. Shouts to Laos.
Lao in the building.
Shouts to Laos.
Yeah.
Love that place.
Yeah.
She won, actually, Miss Minnesota back in 2018.
Did she, though?
That's cool.
Well, they say that if you're going to win a pageant like that, then you might be quite easy on the eyes. Is that what it is?
Must be.
I know you got to have the brains, too, and all the rest of that. They ask you those questions and stuff like that. We have a special question that they didn't ask her later after we talk about her a little bit.
So on Friday night, after last week of everything popping off, she announced that she was going to end her marriage with Derek Chauvin, the officer that you could see
she was going
choking
to do what?
out George Floyd.
She was going to do what?
In the marriage. She filed for divorce.
She filed for a what?
After a 10-year marriage, she filed for a divorce.
Kellie Chauvin don't want to be married to DC no more.
Nah.
Why is that?
All
right.
Chauvin has been charged with Chauvin got charged with third-degree murder.
Third-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter.
Is that fact?
Yeah, it's a fact.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
They charged him with third-degree murder and with second-degree manslaughter, so it's good that he'll have to fight two cases.
So
and
it brings up the bigger question is how do we feel about the women who support these officers who commit these violent acts against human beings?
How do we feel about the wives, girlfriends, mistresses, or mistresses? I like thinking that might be mistresses. It makes it sound a little bit more fancy, but it's really just mistresses. How do we feel about these wives, girlfriends, mistresses who, what's it like to be married to a dirty cop? How do we feel about these women who support them?
You're an accomplice. You're an accomplice in certain ways.
Should she be charged? What should she be charged with? Hey, keep it gangster. I say it in the most potentially offensive way possible.
Nah, I can't.
He's got this mandate, right? You got this guy. He's got
this guy.
He's got this mandate of whiteness.
He has a history. He has a history of violence. He has a history of damn near racism.
And that's going to happen disproportionately, right, to people who don't have that mandate of whiteness like how he does.
Right.
And then when he goes home.
So, I mean, some people would say, his wife is Asian. He can't be racist.
Right.
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 I just
For those of you who this might be new information to, you have to ask yourself. Ask yourself this: when Master Charlie was raping Bessie and all the rest of the people too, did that exonerate Master Charlie from racism?
mm,
Anyway, check it out. How do you feel about women, these wives? Should they stand by their man? When they get ready to leave, do we say, oh, it should have happened sooner, or congratulations? Or do we say to them something like, oh, you faking the funk, you're just trying to protect yourself right now?
mm.
Do we say all of those things to
I
them?
feel like all of those responses have some validity. Me personally, I want to choose to come from a place of loving kindness and empathy. So in that situation for her, with her kids, she just wants to protect her family, which we talked about motherhood on the first
she don't have
pod.
children, though.
No, she do. We're not in that marriage. They don't have kids.
Right.
But she has children from
another
previous marriage.
Right.
So she wants to protect her family, and we talked about motherhood in the first podcast, and I said that one of the pillars of motherhood is sacrifice. And also he said one of the pillars of motherhood and parenthood is culture. So you got to create a culture where you enforce to your children that you can't stand beside something so heinous and so violent and so just ugly. You can't stand for it or stand beside it or stand with it.
I feel bad for the kids that she waited this long to leave. Y'all.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. We don't want to judge the lady. We do feel like it's a good idea to examine that situation because, whoa, that's all I got to say
Because
about that.
it brought us up to this point. Like, what is it like to be married to a dirty cop?
What's it like to be married to what?
A dirty cop.
What's that like?
So, or even
Are any of you married to a dirty cop?
or even to be,
Let us know.
imagine to be abused or to be a victim of domestic violence from a dirty cop. Like I read this article, really powerful article about a lady who was dating a cop. Ended up, she was unfaithful, but they got married because they were having a child.
All right.
So the relationship was already on shaky terms.
All right.
And then
what?
And then all of a sudden, one day he becomes violent, but he's also a police officer. So it's like, again, it goes back to, what standard should we hold these people to, like these officers? And should they be held to a higher standard? I think so, because they yield a certain amount of power, being authorized to carry a weapon and that they can use at any time. So
I'm going to be the dark one.
What's it like?
I'm going to be the dark one here.
All right.
And I'm going to say, I can imagine that for a lot of people being married to a dirty cop is fun. Because a lot of folks out there know that their husband is dirty.
Yeah.
Right? And really are accomplices.
Or wife.
Right. Or that their husband or wife is dirty. And
or wife.
Know what it's like to be accomplices. When they come home with that bag, that brown bag, you know what I'm saying, from robbing some drug dealers, you know what I mean, or that coke that they got up out of the evidence room or whatever. Guess who was the first person there to get right? Right? Guess who getting broken off? Extra 10 bands.
Right.
You know what I mean? When they out
in
Aspen,
new refrigerators.
Yeah, Aspen, skiing around, showing off whatever to their girlfriends or to their boyfriends. I'm gonna keep it like that. I'll go ahead and be the dark one, and I'm gonna say, yeah, a lot of people out there, they love their crooked spouse. They love it.
Right.
You know what I mean? They love it. Might have been scared at first, right?
Right.
But let the first year pass by and the second year pass by, and that extra $2,400 a month.
It reminds me of
that's coming from that extortion racket, that them and their buddies got going on, right? And that Cadillac Escalade that they pushing, right?
It reminds me of
now.
Better Call Saul. Like as he got worse and worse, at first his lady was hated it.
Sure.
She wasn't about it at all.
Sure.
But then when she could use it to her advantage,
sure.
She got a lot more comfortable with breaking the law all the time. She got more and more comfortable with it, and at one point they just partners in crime.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not gonna. I tell people I'm not gonna pretend to be an arch criminal, but I know a little something about something, and that's exactly what it's like for most people to be married to dirty cops. Straight up. Until guess what? When things start going bad, then it's
go bad.
Oh, then what happened? Then the rats come out.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead, PC up.
I mean, and I think that's just being
PC up, you filthy rat.
being married to a criminal in general. I mean, being involved with a criminal in general, romantically. I mean, it doesn't have to be, this applies to any criminal, not just horrible cops, but I mean, not just dirty cops, but when you laid up with someone that is breaking the law, That's the thing about
love go listen to some Ice-T. Go listen to some Ice-T. Get an education about this kind of stuff, y'all. Take it back to the original. Tracy. Yeah.
and we talking
OG.
about we talking
Shout out
about
to Ice-T. Shout out
Derek
to Coco.
Chauvin and Floyd and everything, and I wanted to point out that at one point, according to Vlad TV, shout out to Vlad,
Big Vlad. Ooh.
shout out to Vlad.
Get my Vlad TV
These
in
guys,
2021. We coming.
the off-duty officer that was working inside the club they were both working at the same club.
How about that?
Derek Chauvin was working inside, and George Floyd was working outside. And I mean, just to think that you could be, 1 degree of separation from someone, and be damn near coworkers, and then but still have no commonality and still have no common humanness. So, do situations like this make you more mistrusting of other racial and cultural groups?
Nah, me personally,
Yeah.
nah. I'm already, like I said, I'm broken already.
Mm.
I'm doing my best to get fixed. That's what I'm doing out here.
Mm.
I don't even, you know me. That's why I call people so-called race, so-called white folks, so-called black folks, because I don't trust the system that throws those labels on people. I feel like those are artificial lines. You think, yeah, I'm gonna take it there. You know the history of how a lot of these national borders got drawn? Just look up the history of how the Brits did it, right? You know what I mean? Draw some artificial boundaries, right? The boundaries that you draw support your economic interest, imperial interest, right? For those of you who don't know, this conversation might be a little bit academic or whatever, right? But it's cool. We're going to break it down to you. Racism is a style of neocolonialism, all right? So it's economic, right? So for me, I don't even take it there because I already know. Oh, just because I'm in a room full of 100 so-called black folks or whatever, right? It's going to be the same percentage of rats in that room, right? I'm in a room with 100 so-called white folks. It's going to be the same percentage of rats amongst every group.
Yeah.
Straight up.
For sure.
Yeah, so that's how I get down.
So it comes down to the fact that, and I think the overarching theme that I want our listeners to take away from this conversation is that we're human beings.
Humans.
And human beings have light and darkness inside.
Big H.
And
H. Humans.
And what side of the human being that you get
humans
depends on which part of the human being that they have embraced. Have they embraced the lightness within them, the love, the kindness, the caring, the empathy, or have they embraced the darkness, the separation, the hatred, the bigotry, the discrimination, the racism, violence? It depends on what part of themselves have they embraced. So for me, situations like this particular situation doesn't make me more mistrusting of other groups. But later we're going to talk about another situation that makes me more mistrusting of other groups.
That's what's up.
Let's get into the next bag because this guy's really funny.
All right, let's do it.
Let's get it. Bag of tricks.
What is it, a.black? What is it?
The bag of tricks. That's how they get you.
What is it, a.black?
The language is important. A theme of the past bag podcast. We're both writers. We're both musicians. We're both artists. Both producers and directors in our own way. And so, one thing that we take very serious is the language. And so, the narrative. The narrative that is created is so important. And we are lucky in some ways. Hear me out. We're lucky to have a commander-in-chief who puts his feelings out in writing.
I agree.
Because you know exactly where he stands. There's no, when you read something in writing, you read it in print, it's completely different. You can really understand the language and really break it down. So we get into, it's no role models, man. We got no role models, and there's a lack of leadership because we got a commander in tweets. So I'm going to read you 2 tweets that our commander in tweets, 45, put out over the past week because I want everybody to understand the language that goes into, what he's doing. This is the first tweet.
What's the language?
The governor of Michigan should give a little and put out the fire. These are very good people, but they are angry. They want their lives back again, safely. See them, talk to them, make a deal. So this is when people were protesting because businesses have been shut down because of the coronavirus. And that's a big part to keep in mind, that the backdrop of all of this is a pandemic that the world has never seen before.
What is the backdrop of all of this?
A pandemic that the world has never seen before. There's never been anything like it. Over 100,000 people have died. in the past
In-
2 months.
In the States.
In the state,
In
just
the
the states.
over 100,000 people have died.
Just
That's
the
not even
states
to mention
alone.
what's happening in the rest of the world. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
when you read that, you hear our president, well, the president of the United States,
President of the USA.
speaking very empathically. Like he's speaking about how people just want to go back to work. They lost their jobs. They're hurting. They're frustrated. So I would venture to say that the people that in this situation don't look like you or I when he's making these type of tweets, right?
I don't even read that deep into it, but I could see that being the case.
But so now that people are in some ways rioting, looting, but still a lot of people, the majority of people are peaceful protesting.
Right.
The majority of people
Speak
don't let the news fool you.
Speak on it.
The majority of people are protesting very peacefully.
We don't need no sugar, a.black. Put it out.
This is the tweet that came out a few days ago. These thugs are dishonoring the memory of George Floyd, and I won't let that happen. Thugs was in all caps. Just spoke to Governor Tim Walz, he's the governor of Minnesota, and told him that the military is with him all the way. It with him all the way. That's what it said. He can't write. Any difficulty, and we will assume control. We will assume control, but when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Thank you. So that was already crazy to me because the quote, when the looting starts, the shooting starts, was actually from the 1960s, the Miami race riots by this cat named Walter Headley who said that. And it was very, racial policies being enacted.
If you don't know, Florida is almost as far south as you can get in the United States.
Facts.
Not only geographically. Actually, it is the southernmost. Florida does have the southernmost borders. It is also the furthest south that you can get culturally in a lot of ways. So, a lot of rednecks, a lot of people who, came up out of the ideologies of the clans and the neo-Nazis and a lot of fuckery going on.
A lot of fuckery
going on in Florida.
A lot of buffoonery.
And a lot of that is rooted inside of the history of, governors like this, governors who have legacies like George Wallace.
A lot of men with breasticles.
Yeah, these guys who they were the governor and the Grand Dragon at the same time.
A lot of men with breasticles.
Hey, let me say this, because Master P is my spirit animal. He taught me a lot about positivity. I want to apologize for putting them negative vibes out earlier and calling Officer Derek DC, calling him a biatch. Master P being my spirit, we need to put a picture of him up there every podcast to remind me to stay positive. Shout out to the big homie Percy Miller. But getting back to the bag, man, yeah, I think that I just want to say this, I'm critical of people who only have negative stuff to say about anybody, right? And that includes Donald J. Trump, right? Because before he was president, I didn't hear a lot of people that be talking all that stuff about him. And he wasn't a very different person then. The only difference is he didn't have the keys. Now that he had the keys to the yard, y'all want to talk a lot. I'm going to say this. Check yourself. You're not checking yourself as hard as you're checking that man. Get out of that bag. That ain't the way to do it. My man is, everybody's got virtues to him.
So that tweet got flagged by Twitter for exciting violence. This is the idea that that capitalism has to, in some ways, censor the president. Like business. That's another discussion for another day.
Hey, in case you don't know, you can ask that question.
I think capitalism is conflict. I would say capitalism is conflict. I wouldn't necessarily say it's violent.
I'm gonna say this because it doesn't value health. It doesn't value, that is violent.
I see where you're going. Hey. I don't know if I'm riding the same bus, but I can see that what direction you're going in. We at the same stop. Right. Should our president be allowed to tweet whatever he likes?
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
Should he be allowed to do whatever he likes?
Should he be able to say? Should. All right, that's a great question because I follow up. There was.
Because he's the president, he's got like how the president has a red button. Not everybody can press that red button.
Right.
So can he do red button tweet?
That's the thing. So should he be? I mean, anybody with common sense can see that the man is slightly delusional. So I would.
Narcissism is a type of mental illness. Narcissism is a type of mental illness.
It's
I
fact.
think it's important us to have empathy for the fact that anybody is suffering from personality disorder.
Would you say he's a nonviolent psychopath?
Would I say he's no? I would say he's violent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Respect.
Violence. You know, right?
Yeah.
When you are, okay, you got a history of being a super shady landlord in New York City. Shout out to the Lower East Side, fried rice, baby.
Yeah.
I'm sure that they can even tell us stories about how when Donald J. Trump was forcing people out of their homes using eminent domain so that he could build his, all the rest of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Private city officials back in New York are a lot more crooked than it is right now. And I'm not even from New York. I know about that. Right?
Yeah,
so I'm
for
not
sure.
going to sit up with everything about the guy. So those playing now that he got the key, or now that he got the red button tweet.
But the thing is, like, are you just gonna sit just because I didn't complain before? Am I supposed to like sit back and not say anything now?
I think that when you bring voice to the table, make sure that you bring a sense of accountability. That part of this is your fault.
Part of this is my fault.
Because maybe if you had said something sooner, maybe if your values were calibrated to where you would have spoke up sooner, it would have prevented people like him from getting in this position.
I want to say while we're on this subject, what's so important, and I'm gonna be very vulnerable and take responsibility right now.
Hey-o.
I didn't vote in the last election. You know?
Okay.
And I'm registered in North Carolina where 45 won North Carolina, and before that, the two elections before that, President Obama, won North Carolina. So North Carolina's a swing state. And so I had...
Not like a sex swing, not like the cool swing.
Not that type of swing.
Okay, because if it was that kind of state, I'd move there immediately.
Well, I'm sure some of that's happening too. But North Carolina's a swing state, and I didn't vote in the last election, but I will definitely. So register to vote. Register right now. Doesn't matter how you vote, whether you go to the polls or you can register online in most states. So
at least get involved in your local politics.
I think it's register.gov or register. Anyway, you can Google it.
That's where I'm coming out. At least get involved in your local politics.
Register to vote.
I think you should be more involved in your local politics.
Well, let's talk about local politics because
we're going to talk about local politics.
There was a Mississippi mayor for the city of Petals.
Shout out to Mississippi.
Shout out to the SIP.
Yeah, whoa.
Shout out to David Banner.
Whoa.
Shout out to David Banner and the SIP.
Oh, my Lord. A.black, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling y'all. This is my man right here. This is my man's right there.
My brother was stationed in the SIP. He loved it. My brother was in the Air Force. Shout out to my brother.
Oh, man.
Sean Jones.
I've taken a few rides through Mississippi.
In the SIP, there was a mayor in the city of Petals. He was asked to resign over a tweet that said, when he came out to say, if you can talk,
what did he say?
If you can talk, I'm going to do it like, if you can talk, you can breathe.
And that was in the context of having of Brother Floyd being on the ground. If you saw the video,
screaming for his mother, screaming that he can't breathe.
You know somebody about to die when they're screaming for their mother.
A grown ass man screaming for his mother,
who's been left the planet.
Right.
And this guy who likely is the Grand Wizard of the Klan in his local chapter, right?
Right.
Is saying that because the dude could talk.
He could breathe.
I will volunteer to put him in a rear naked choke.
Test his theory. That's my question. I wonder, has he ever been choked out? Like,
I'll volunteer
if you ain't ever been choked out, you don't know what you're talking about.
I'm gonna tell y'all something right now. For those of you who know a little bit about jiu-jitsu or about wrestling, it's not on until you throw the hooks in.
Right.
You got to throw the hooks in. Once you throw in the hooks and stretch them out in the grapevine. Ooh, right. Yeah, that's when you really get the leverage.
So for somebody who's been choked out, you ain't got no control over what happens, whether you're screaming or not, whether you're breathing. I mean, who was to say he's not having a panic attack and he still can't breathe?
Listen, y'all, we want to give a shout out. We want to give a shout out to our lovely production assistant, all right, who's helping us out. She's got to go halfway through the production. Miss Nicole Ludowitz, thank you very much. That's Berlin in the building, all right? You know what I'm saying? Deutschland, stand up. And, if you don't know, she's an artist doing all types of fantastic and cool things here in the city. We might throw some links in so that you could get in touch with her and all the rest of that. But getting back to the bag.
Is ship and sistership ever a good thing?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes censorship is a good thing. I don't really have much more to say about that. I could give some examples.
I'll go. Yeah, I'll double down on that. That there is no complete freedom of speech, no matter where you are. If you you can't say anything. You can't threaten somebody with your language. You know, you can't intentionally tell lies on someone. That's liable. You know, you can't threaten someone. That's threat of violence with your language. You can't. There's no 100% free speech.
Yeah,
it doesn't exist.
I'm going back to the big homie Tracy Merrill, who had the FBI chasing him around in the 90s. Shout out to Tipper Gore and all the rest of you people who just might be suckers.
So let us know what you think. Do you think censorship is ever a good thing? Do you think 45 should be able to tweet whatever he wants, whenever he wants, however he wants? Should he be able to? Should Twitter have the power to police?
What'd you call him? 45.
45. Automatic weapon.
Hey,
An automatic weapon. So should 45 be able to
45
do whatever he likes, whenever he likes, however he likes? Let us know at passthebagpodcast@gmail.com or join our WeChat group or hit us up on Instagram. We're going to get into the next bag.
That's a word to the bird.
Boom, 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 boom.
What it is.
Boom, boom, boom.
Hey.
Boom, 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 boom. Bad lady, you gon' hurt your back.
Shout out to Dallas. Dallas's finest. The green-eyed bandit herself. Badu. I can remember 1992 when Baduism first came out. Because that's when my mama was still hella young. And my mom's had a partner whose first name was Tyrone. So right after the album dropped, in between that and the second album, when they released what was just a vocal warm-up that became a legendary single. You know, she freestyled that whole thing, her and the band. Yeah, called Tyrone. Oh, man. Check it, y'all. You want to start over? Hey, man, I just want to tell y'all something, man. Big shout out to Badu. I really respect that thing that she did in Dallas where she got picked up by the Pose. You know what I'm talking about?
The window seat video.
Yeah, she got picked up by.
When she de-evolved.
That was a wonderful
on the street.
statement of free speech right there.
For sure.
That was a wonderful use of free speech.
So we talking about free speech. We talking about the dark side of the states.
The state of events.
The dark side of the force.
There's a state of events taking place.
And so I saw something.
I'm a wartime
It's a video
president.
that came out around last week. For a young lady. Her name is Amy Cooper.
Okay.
There's a young man, young African American man, a young Afro-European
Descendant individual.
diasporic individual.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah.
he was bird watching in Central Park in
Bird
New York.
watching.
Shout out to New York. We in fried rice.
Hey. That's beautiful.
And this young lady was in the park. She was with a dog, her dog. Well, it was an adopted dog.
Poor dog.
Poor dog.
Poor dog getting traumatized. By some
And
bullshit.
the dude, Mr. Christian, was like, "Yo, you got to put your dog on a leash. Like, it's the signs right there.
Right.
Clearly says, in this area of the park,
Right.
your dog has to be on a leash. Just in this one area. Like,
Right,
literally,
right.
that was an area not too far away where she could have her dog off the leash, no problem.
Right.
But in this one particular area,
What
of
did
the
she
park,
do, A.black? What did she do, A.black?
So
Tell the people what she did.
she according to the report, she got a little bit upset. She started getting a little bit more frustrated with the situation.
Oh, dang.
So Mr. Christian, he pulled out his phone, started recording her
Uh-huh.
because he wanted to get it on tape.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, and she was started to come towards him, and he was like, no, you stay over there. Social distancing is important.
Right. Social distancing.
So he's like, no, you stay over there. And she was like, stop recording me. She's like, I'm going to call the police and tell them that you're assaulting me, that you're threatening me with violence.
How about that?
And so just the idea of that popping into her head is something to do to get back at him, brought me to the idea of weaponized privilege.
Weaponized what?
Weaponized privilege. Like, she knew she's a white woman. She knew as a white woman that she had certain powers endowed to her, certain privileges because she was a white woman, just keeping it real.
All right.
And she knew that one of those privileges is that if she called the police and let them know that a black man, an African American man, was assaulting her or threatening her with violence, that they would take that very seriously.
How about that?
And that part for me is very powerful because of what it communicates, that certain lives are more valuable than other lives. That's what she believed. Her behavior supported the idea that she believed that her life was more valuable than his. And her ideas, which that her dog should be able to do what she want, he or she want. I don't know if it's he or she, the dog.
I feel like I gotta
It's
ask
important.
you. I gotta ask you how, because when you say that, I get the part about her actions being on some BS on the other part, but the part about supporting the value of life being differently, help me understand that part.
Because like the whole concept of her calling the police was that the police would take her idea, the idea of her being assaulted. The police would show up, basically guns drawn.
Okay.
Because it was a black man that was doing it to her. You know, like when she called, when she called the police, she reiterated over and over and over again that there's an African American man.
Oh, she actually did call the cops?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, the video is her calling the
I didn't
police.
see the
Like,
video.
yeah, well, definitely want to see that, but
Nah.
I don't know if you want to see it. But she was very calm at first. She was like, "There's an African American man, and he's threatening violence against me. I'm in Central Park. You know, please come as soon as possible." And then she's holding the dog the whole time, and the dog's going crazy. So she's holding the dog, got the phone, and then she's like, and then as the dog gets crazier, her voice inflections get worse and worse. And then she starts to say, "He's assaulting me right now. There's an African American man assaulting me in the park. Come now, please."
So just the part that I wonder. I got so caught up in the story that you was just telling that I didn't remember your original statement. Your original statement, you said that her actions show.
Her actions show that she believed
She believed
that her life was more valuable than his.
Okay. She's saying that she believed that her life was more
Because
valuable.
she started from a place where the rules didn't apply to her.
Right.
Even though the guy was just asking her to follow the rules, just like everybody else.
I like where you're going.
She started with the place that the rules don't apply to me.
Right.
And then she went on to say that because you're African American, I have power over you. And when I call the police, they're going to support my power.
Right.
So I feel like she used her privilege and weaponized it. And it
Right.
was something I had never really conceptualized before, but it happens all the time.
I agree that she weaponized her privilege for sure. Yeah, man. I guess this is me wanting to be careful with language too, right? Like even with the way that I'm listening to it, I feel like usually those people, I wonder if people in her position really do feel that there's a difference between the value of these two lives, or if they just take advantage of the fact that that's the way the system works. It makes me wonder if if internally
question.
there is an acknowledgement, right, that we're both humans,
Right.
and both of our lives have value, and at the same time, this is something that I know I could do, so I'm gonna do it.
So initially,
It reminds me of like how children.
So when she's been on a few news outlets and she's lost her job, and I think she even lost the dog. I feel like the people that gave her the dog took the dog back.
Wow.
So actually, the video ends with like the dog is going so crazy and she's on the phone that she just has to put the dog on the leash.
Right.
And the guy says thank you, and then cuts out the video and leaves. So the video, eventually gets to the point where he was just like, the humanness of it is like, I just wanted you to follow the rules like everybody else.
That's right.
But what came from it, especially now in this conversation, that this race conversation is so important, it's happening right now.
How about this? These race conversations.
These race conversations, and they're coming from different angles, which is why I'm happy that you guys are listening and tuning in to Pass It Bad to get our perspective on it, because it's so much craziness that's happening. And so she was saying initially that she was afraid that the guy came, he was bird watching, right?
Oh my God.
So black man appears out of nowhere, people are afraid, right?
Oh my God.
I don't know why, but that's what happens. It happens to me every day in China. Like somebody turns the corner, sees me, and they're like literally almost shit on themselves because they're just so afraid of seeing a black man.
Have you ever seen any actual shit dribbling down the legs of someone
Nah.
as they waddled away from you as quickly as possible?
Maybe. I don't know. I've never seen it. But I see the fear. I see the surprise. And so she was surprised that the man had appeared. But that's the thing, like whenever you feel fear, right? There's the natural response of fight, flight, or freeze, right?
All right.
But I feel like when it comes to when it comes to black bodies, the response to African European.
Can we say something about this? This is my fault. Yeah. Listening to him stumble over that is all my fault because I'm a person who encourages people to not put people inside of racial labels.
Right.
And you know, I also think it's important when we talk about that narrative of slavery in the States. When the States is a place that during the African Holocaust, less than 10% of the total Africans who came out of Africa were dropped in the States, and the majority of them, over 90% of them, were taken to places south of the States, okay, to where we have the dominant narrative because we're the dominant culture, citizens of the States, right? So I think that part is messed up, right? And I think that's a big part of the narrative. But this is my fault. When y'all listen to him talk about the Afro-European diasporic individuals, right? This is my fault to have to hear him go through that because I think that it's important.
I want to say that
I think that's important.
I read a tweet and someone pointed out that it's not just fear, but there's contempt there, and I bring the word contempt is language is important. Contempt is the feeling that a person or a thing is beneath consideration, worthless, or deserving scorn.
Okay.
And so when police brutality happens, or when weaponized privilege happens, I don't feel like it's a fear response in the essence of like flight, you know, like the flight element of it. But there's the fight. There's always I feel like there's the fight element of it that comes from it.
All right.
The fight element, because I see the fear, right? You know, you walk. I've seen, you know, the people that lock the doors when they see me coming, or now, you know, with COVID, some they like, you know, tighten their nostril strip when they see me coming.
Okay.
So I feel like there's a fearful response as well, but then there's also this violent contempt fight response in that fear.
Gotcha.
And I think it's rooted in bullshit because I'm a human being just like you're a human being, and we're all human beings, and I just so happen to look different. And that's the part that hurts me.
Let me say this. I'm sorry for your pain. I'm sorry for your pain. And I'm sorry for the pain of everybody out there that is suffering, you know, as a result of this, man. I think one of the best solutions right now is, again, people got to be, it all starts from within, man.
Yeah.
You know, it all starts from within. And as corny as that is or whatever, I mean, I'm happy to be able to be the facilitator of a kumbaya moment. To the best of my abilities,
and that's the
at a
thing.
time of need.
It's a human thing. I won't even isolate it to the United States because I have a friend in Dongguan, and I won't say his name.
Talk on it.
But he was at his bar that he owns or he runs. I don't know whether just the manager, but he runs this bar. He was there with his lady and other friends. His lady is Chinese, is a local young lady.
All right.
And there was a customer that came in, a Chinese man.
All right.
And I think he was like maybe interested in his lady or whatever.
Okay.
But wanted to speak to her, and she didn't respond. She didn't respond to him. She don't gotta respond to him.
That's right.
You know, but because she didn't respond, he got up in arms. Next thing you know, my friend, who was a brown guy, who's actually I think he's mixed. But
everybody's mixed.
Everybody's mixed, right? But I mean, he's a mulatto in a lot of ways. Brown.
So are we.
Yeah.
That part.
Facts.
That part.
So anyway,
allegedly so are we.
He's I would say he's
an Afro-European.
He's Afro-European for sure. And the man threatened to call the police on him and say that he was a drug dealer and say that he was like using and dealing drugs.
How about
you know
that?
What I'm saying?
How about that?
So he weaponized the privilege of the fact that he's a local and that he could just, you know, at any point call the authorities and make up something.
Right.
In order for, like, because he felt slighted, he lost face.
Okay.
And that's when I come to the point that it's a human being problem.
Yeah, definitely.
It's not necessarily just a United States problem.
Supports what I was saying.
Yeah.
You in a room with 100 folks of a so-called group or whatever. It's the same percentages of, you know, this, that, and the other, man. It's a human issue.
And that's where like the racism conversation is so important because the question is, where did it begin? And I feel like racism has always been a human issue because you go back to the days of the, even, you know, some of the earliest civilizations like the Kush, you know, and the Egyptians. Kushites.
Right.
And the Egyptians, you know, they had their own levels of, you know, classism, racism.
So we've been told.
I mean, so we've been told. But there's no perfectly harmonious society, no matter whether it's a black society or it's a white society, or it doesn't matter. Like there are going to be elements of
I don't know, man.
When
I
there's
feel
government,
I feel like if the police had left Fela alone, they could have did it. Shout out to Nigeria.
no, definitely not in Nigeria. You talk about how the Europeans drawing lines that economically work for people. No, that would have never. I mean, no, definitely not Nigeria.
Fela, come on, man.
I mean,
he had the commune and everything.
He's great.
He had the commune.
Don't
He had
get
the
me
commune. Did you know that? You didn't know that.
Shouts to Fela.
Fela he had his home.
Of course. Oh yeah, I know.
His own country.
Oh yeah, I know about Fela.
Anybody could have did it. Fela could have did it. Fela.
There is no society where there isn't, problems between people. Conflict is a human creation.
Conflict
it
is
natural.
A human creation.
It's natural. It's natural. It's natural amongst all species, all animal species, all species, even of cells, of small organisms.
Hey, before we hop off of this issue, while we're still on it, I think that this was one of the brilliances of that very classic Sean Corey Carter joint where he says
bars.
Yeah, bars. Oh yeah, he definitely had his moments, didn't he? When my man said, I'm from the hood where the
I'm from the hood where the sun's are swallowing
bullets are following and so much coke that you could run a slalom. But when my man said what he said next,
the cops calling us
top to bottom. They say that we are prone to violence, but it's home sweet home. I really appreciated that part.
Yeah, man.
It's just because somebody says that you're prone to violence,
right?
It doesn't mean that it's true, and it doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about. No. And anybody who's more in your business than they are in their own business, that's somebody who's out of pocket. If you don't know what out of pocket means, it means out of line, out of order. If you're not pointing yours, at yourself as much as you point it at the next person, you are out of order. Check yourself.
Facts.
Learn how to check yourself before you're checking all up on somebody else.
So if you haven't seen the video about Miss Amy Cooper, check it out and let us know what you think.
Feels like we're almost at the transitional point where we're transitioning up out of this. Thank y'all. We love y'all. Listen, y'all.
Break it. This bag title is like one of the coolest. So if you don't know, we spend time planning this. We actually do plan this, and we have to come up with the names of the bags all the time. And so Mr. P, Prof P, Provost P,
so
Bobby Pins on Instagram, Bobby_Pins.
He BOBBY_PENS.
And on Twitter.
That's right.
He said we should call this bag the Breaking Bag.
Breaking Bag.
And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Brilliant. He's from Michigan. Shouts to Michigan. And so in the world right now, there's just widespread fuckery. Keep in mind of all of this, while all this racial tension is happening, it's the perfect storm because this is the backdrop of COVID-19. Over 100,000 people in the States have perished. They're no longer with us.
It's not enough just for us to have a global pandemic.
It's not enough.
It's not enough for a.black and for me to have had these experiences where, true story, I was on vacation in Thailand, January 4th, left Shenzhen. Shenzhen was humming like how it is, a city of 20 million people, humming in full swing. And when I come back on February 5th, crickets.
Nothing. And this is normal. This is a normal occurrence because it's Chinese New Year and Shenzhen is a migrant city, so people move here for work and then they move away during Chinese New Year. But it's never this quiet.
I'm gonna tell you something. It was tumbleweed in the streets, and so it wasn't enough just for that to happen. We got the widespread fuckery going on. We got the COVID, and if it's not enough for us to have COVID, we had the rest of the stuff going on at the same time.
In Michigan, his home, there was a lot of it was a natural disaster. There were a lot of flooding, and over thousands of people had to evacuate their homes, leave their homes. So could you imagine having to leave your home during a virus pandemic, man?
Pandemic in full swing. It's killing people. If it's not killing people, it's making them so sick that their lives are forever altered. Some of these diseases that people are developing as a result of this COVID situation can cause serious long-term issues, respiratory issues. For sure. It could be blood issues. They could put you on a medication. That the medication that they put you on would then make it so that you have another issue for long-term. So you have all of that that's happening. You're supposed to be social distancing. You're supposed to be staying home. You're supposed to be wearing a mask. You're supposed to be
washing hands.
All of that. And then now, in the middle of Michigan, they had 2 dams break. up near Midland, Michigan, and a whole lake. One of the articles said that the whole lake got erased overnight. So now you not only have a national pandemic, but in your hometown you have a national disaster that's forced you out of your homes. What do you do? What do you do?
I couldn't. I would. I mean, it would just be devastating.
I do feel like I would be absolutely heartbroken.
It would be
I
devastating.
feel like at that point I would have already been scared, but at least I would have felt like I had shelter.
Right.
You know, but now I feel like I would be as close to a broken person as a person could get at that point, because now, like, really, where do you go? Who can take you in?
And again,
how do you even get taken in?
And so
my heart goes out.
Shouts to all those people.
That's awful.
It's horrible what you're going through, and we stand with you, and let us know if we can support you in any way. But it comes back to the conversation we were having earlier, because the National Guard has been called for to combat some of the violence that's happening during the protests.
All right.
Violence. Some guard violence. There is some violence happening. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not happening. I'm not there to say what's happening, what's not happening.
All right.
But I know that most people want to see this resolved peacefully.
What you want to say, a.black? What you want to say? Say it.
I'm gonna ask the question. If you were making decisions, would you just send the National Guard to combat protest, protect capitalism, or would you send them to like a place that actually needs the help, where it's a natural disaster, where people are being evacuated from their homes during a pandemic?
I'm gonna tell you that one of the hardest parts about the question that you just asked too is that there's a really high probability, especially in the Great Lakes region, that those two dams that failed were put together by the what do they call them? That's messed up. That the name was just on my mind. The Army Corps of Engineers. Yeah, like, it's really common in the Great Lakes and in a lot of places that the Army Corps of Engineers, that they're the ones who design these dams and things like that. So that means that it is the Army's responsibility to mobilize when a dam fails, right? To go in and do all the rest of that, because it's the Army Corps of Engineers who put the thing together most of the time. But there's private dams also. But in the Great Lakes, we have a lot of dams where the Army Corps of Engineers does that thing, especially up in Wisconsin, Minnesota.
So you're the governor of Michigan.
Do you send the National Guard? I think
you're the president. If I was president. Shout out to Wycliffe.
You know what? I don't know. I'll just go ahead and say it. I don't know. That I would have to look at a whole bunch of. It would be details. The details would cause that decision. But I don't envy anybody who has to make that decision right now. How about you?
And I feel my heart goes out, to people on both sides of the front lines. People who are in the National Guard, who support the protests, but they got to do their job.
Right.
Like following orders. My heart goes out to them, because they have to make a tough decision every day to stand on the other side, even though their ideals align with the people that are protesting, police brutality. And it's crazy, because
man, it's really going down right now.
It's really going down,
really going
and there's
down.
looting happening, and people's like, no, that's not the right way to do it. And there's been so much conversation about what's the right way to do it. What's the right way to protest? There is no right way to protest. It's a protest. That's the whole point. It's supposed to go against something. There's no right way to go against. There is a structure. We believe in society. We all agree on certain rules in a society, right? We agree that we're going to be good people so we can belong to the society, and you can be a respectable member of society. But when your society doesn't protect you, and the rules that everybody else follows in the society don't apply to you because you look different, then how can you expect people to continue to support society when society doesn't support the people?
I think that those are good questions. I'm gonna say that I disagree on the part about there being no rules to the protest. The rules are about what are your goals and what are your timelines. I know that there are gatherings where people don't really have well-defined goals and timelines. And I'm the first person to say that if you really don't have well-defined goals and timelines, then stay home. I'm also the type of person to say if you're going to go out and you're going to mobilize, make sure that you have goals and timelines, because you don't want to just be out there for nothing. Now, I'm from Detroit. If you don't know, now you know. 1967, Detroiters, those of us who consider ourselves socially responsible and not agents of, racism and division, we don't call that a riot. We call that an uprising. I'm the type of person, because we talk about language being important, the stuff that's happening, that's called civil unrest. Those are uprising. You know, media, the media, the mass media. Shout out to you. We're doing media right now, but there are certain people who their agendas are intertwined with state agendas, right? Not everybody, right? But a lot of people are, and that's not me talking bad on anybody's agenda. Because I empathize with anybody out there who's afraid enough and who has so little imagination that that their ideals and ideologies are run by stuff like scarcity, right? The idea that there's not enough for everybody, and you have to be afraid of these people and think about how to marginalize those folks, and you just constantly feeling threatened all the time. I empathize with you if that's who you are, but that's not who I am. So I'm just gonna say, when it comes to civil unrest, when it comes to these uprisings, I do feel one of the learn from Detroit '67, y'all. There was a rebellion, but if rebellion doesn't have well organized, if you don't already have whatever government that you want to replace the other government, not to say that I'm advocating for that, but if you don't have that in play, you feel like your government is incompetent or whatever, it's not enough, or a branch of your government, not the whole government, it's not enough just for you to rebel, but you got to come to the table with specific goals, specific timelines, and specific things that you want to see changed. And, if the people who were leading that narrative before you began to take over, albeit reluctantly, and lead that narrative, if they weren't doing it correctly, then you have to be ready, to do that. And then by the same token, there's also a lot of other stuff going on. What you want to say about it, A.black?
I love that.
Thanks.
We talking about.
We in this. We
What's
in
up,
the
Rafi?
bag.
Good to see you, bro.
Yeah,
man.
baby. Yeah.
Rafi in the building.
Let's go.
Rafi joined us live. Holla at us on the podcast Instagram, man. Rafi's in the building.
Yeah.
Rafi's hanging out. And so
Yeah.
hope Rafi's doing great. But yeah, we're just talking about we're talking about Detroit. We're talking about Michigan. And
about Michigan.
Let's get into one of Michigan's finest.
Whoa.
Southwest T
Heyo.
is out.
Southwest T, baby.
Is out because of COVID. In the prisms. In the prisms? Yeah, prisms. In the prisons.
BMF.
The virus began to spread, and it's getting crazy, and people with certain health conditions are being released for house arrest.
That's right.
And so Southwest T is one of the original founders and leaders of the Black Mafia family.
The Black Mafia family.
And so he got arrested in 2008 on CCE, not RICO.
That's right.
And it led us to this question. We're talking about police brutality, talking about racism, talking about natural disasters, the National Guard.
Oh, I love this question.
It led us to the question is, do organizations like the Black Mafia family wield enough influence to stop police brutality?
Do organizations such as the Black Mafia family?
And if you don't know who the BMF is, you gotta look them up. Look them up. Do your due diligence. Do your research.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say nothing about
how
it.
much power they have.
I'm not gonna say nothing about it, but I do think that organizations like BMF, because I think one of the important things about this question is that it takes us to a time where when we talk about the threat narrative, okay, which this is language that I haven't introduced in this podcast until now, but I feel like it's important for us to talk about when we talk about economic agendas. We talk about the threat narrative, right? This threat narrative is a real threat narrative, okay? And it's a threat narrative whereby which we assign certain values to certain individuals, certain threat values to people, right? And it's a very organized thing, and it's put there for a reason because it's put there to protect people's power. It's all about state agency, right? So when you talk about individuals like BMF, okay, Southwest T, Meech, Southwest T being free is a huge thing because before Southwest T and before BMF, you had organizations, okay, that the government would then later call gangs, where if you look at Larry Hoover out of Chicago, Jeff Ford out of Chicago, when you look at Luis Felipe, King Blood, all right, who was originally from Chicago but then went to New York. These are individuals. They are still under the jail. ADX, Florence, Supermax, right? So the very fact, this is a big deal, the very fact that Southwest T is out, the fact that Meech has an opportunity to be able to get out, because these are people who, the government assigned a specific threat narrative to these individuals, and these are people who scared the piss out of maybe some greedy, maybe some racist folks who are asserting or who were then holding certain offices in the United States government. Those people do have that kind of influence to be able to stop that, man.
So you got to answer the question.
Man, absolutely.
Okay.
When I'm gonna tell you
it in
something.
the most offensive way possible.
I'm gonna tell you. Hey, there's a lot of people who I'm sure are gonna be very offended by me putting Southwest T, drawing this parallel between an organization like BMF, right? Who there are these drug trafficking convictions and everything that are associated with BMF, right? And these other organizations like the Latin Kings, organizations like the Peace Stones, Black Peace Stones out of Chicago, right? Like the Gangster Disciples out of Chicago. These organizations, yeah, they absolutely do have the power. This is a great, true story that I'm not even going to tell the story, but I would love for you guys to look it up. It was one time Martin Luther King came to Chicago. And when Martin Luther King came to Chicago, there were some folks who they were like throwing rocks at him or something like that, right? And Jeff Ford got on the news because Martin was there to do a series of protests or a series of speeches or something like that. And Jeff Ford got on the news and told him, he said, anybody else throw any rocks, like this man get hit with it, he said, he just let them know, like we laying the law down, it's going to go down. You're going to wish you hadn't thrown anything. No more rocks got thrown at Martin Luther King. Right. We talk about what the Black Panthers were able to do, right? And for those of you who don't know, the Black Panthers, that thing started because of police brutality. Facts. Huey Newton did his speech. Huey Newton, who, if you don't know, had a PhD, did his dissertation on things like police brutality, community security, and all the rest of that. So, yeah, absolutely.
So that's been going on for a while, and it hasn't changed. And in some ways, it's gotten worse because cameras and everybody having a camera in their pocket, really shows us how much this actually happens all the time. Hey. And, yeah, I agree 100%. I think when the people, and it doesn't matter what the people look like, when the people use the power of the law to protect all people, then things will change. But until people continue to believe that they're separate from one another, like you say, Mr. P, all the time, man. Like, you see a bully, you standing in the line. This is a famous pass the bag tale, but this is the true of life. There's a bully, and there's everybody else in the line. And the bully's picking on somebody in the line about to take their lunch money, and you 3 people behind that person, it's only a matter of time before you become the victim of the bully.
That's right.
So if you stand by and you just watch bullies take over other people because it's not happening to you, it's only a matter of time.
I'm gonna tell you how I get. I'm gonna tell you how I get down. If I'm in that line and you go to take somebody's lunch money that's close to me, I'm gonna break you down. That very moment, I'm gonna break you down. I'm gonna have to check myself. That's real. That's real.
Yeah. And for me, I'm going to approach that situation from a perspective of wanting to understand. I'm gonna make an attempt. I want to make an attempt to understand where your hurt lies and what your core values are.
Hey, well, you could be there. We go to them together. You can make sure I don't go too far.
Right.
Because they getting everything out their pockets.
This is drama triangle.
That's good.
The drama triangle.
Shout out to the drama triangle.
I'm going to be the hero. It's going to be the victim and the perpetrator.
We're gonna turn.
Actually, we're both going to be heroes.
We're going to turn that perpetrator into the victim.
Yeah.
To help them understand what it's like. And then after that, we're going to offer them something. We're going to offer them some love so that they don't have to do that no more.
So let us know what you think about Southwest T getting out.
Southwest T, BMF, Detroit.
Where do you think?
Worldwide.
Do you think that these organizations that have been labeled as gangs have the power to stop police brutality from happening? And from my perspective, yeah, we believe that any group of people with power have the power to stop these things from happening as long as we stand together and don't stand separate from another. But let us know what you think. Pass the Bag Podcast at gmail.com. Pass the Bag.
Hey, Pass the Bag Podcast. Yeah. IG. Yeah.
Join our WeChat group. Indeed.
Let's go.
We're going to pass that back. What's up, IG?
IG in the building.
Rafi in the building.
Check it out, y'all.
Thank you for checking in on IG.
We got to let it be known. We got to get into the body bag right now.
The body bag. So one of our favorite bags every week that we bringing in is the body bag. This conversation started because me and Mr. P, we were on the metro. after our coverage of the Brazilian Carnival in Shenzhen,
Hey.
happening in Bahia, that was awesome. Shout out to all our favorite Brazilians here in Shenzhen, all over the world.
Rio, Santa Catarina, Sao Paulo. We
All
on the way. We on the way.
So shout out to all of them. We were having a conversation, and we asked the question: if we were in the States with all this happening, COVID, the floods, the protests, police brutality, weaponized privilege, everything that's happening in the States right now.
Right now.
What would we be doing? And my initial response was I would sink into depression, because for me, my natural response to things as an empath, to things that hurt me is sadness. That's my natural response initially, and then I can turn that into something positive, like this podcast, for example.
All right.
But Mr. P said, I won't tell you the first part of what he said.
I'll be doing two things. No, it's okay. It's okay. I said that I feel like I would be partnered up someplace and creating alchemy, with some tantra, some love making, some care and compassion, the types of things that happen inside of intimate, healthy, intimate relationship spaces, right? Even though I did put a lot more in terms of, just recreational slammage.
Okay.
All right. But apart from smanging.
Recreational slammage.
That's right. Apart from smanging.
Hashtag recreational slammage.
Hashtag recreational slammage.
Horizontal cardio is
That's
what
right.
Tal
That's
Physique
right.
says.
That's right.
Shout out to Tal Physique.
But aside from that, I said I'd be getting in prison shape. Said I'd be doing prison workouts. And when I said I'd be doing prison workouts, a.black said to me, "Why would you be doing prison workouts?" And I said, for the same reason that people in prison do prison workouts. Because if you stay ready, you don't gotta get ready, And right now, this is one of those times where when you think about, you gotta feel like you gotta feel the heat. If you're not in one of those spaces, it can be easy for you to forget that some of these civil uprisings, some of this unrest, you never know how far it could go. When you talk about, Mad Max scenarios, gangs of, savage people who have really lost their humanity, roaming the streets, kicking in doors, doing whatever it is that they feel like they can do, want to do, because it's lawless out here. You need to be ready to handle that situation, just like if you was locked down, in general population on the main line, and, if it goes down, then, first person who runs out of wind, they lose. And if you don't know what losing is in the pen, is getting stabbed up. So people do prison workouts so that they can be ready when it pops off, because it's only a matter of time
before it pops off.
So
we got into the conversation. We had the body bag.
Yeah.
We got into the conversation talking about this guy named Iron Wolf.
Mr. Iron Wolf.
Shouts to him. You can follow him on YouTube.
Shout out to United States Marine Corps. Shout out to Iron Wolf.
He's a Marine and he's a fitness enthusiast.
Talk about it.
And we talked about one of the prison workouts would be to do one of the initiations in some of the organizations in the prisons is to be able to do 500 burpees.
Certain organizations, especially in CDC, California Department of Corrections, you hit the main line, you're going to get swooped up. And when they swoop you up, there's one organization in particular, I'm not going to say their name, just because I don't want to go there with it, but they give you a month. They give you a month
to get ready, to prepare, to do how many burpees? 500 burpees. So,
but your time, you got to be able to do 500 burpees in. I believe, if I got it correct, it was 500 burpees in under 3 hours.
So Iron Wolf decided to do 500 burpees in 35 minutes.
How long?
35 minutes.
How many?
500, baby. 500 burpees.
And where can we see it?
See it on YouTube.
You can see it on YouTube. The homie went in.
So he also did another video. I think he wrote was like 400 burpees and 11,000 push-ups.
It was actually 500. They did 500.
500 burpees and 11,000
burpees
with the Burpee King and Moses Cuevas.
And Moses Cuevas, Anaheim. The homies.
Both former CDC inmates. So.
The homies. Yeah, baby.
So given the state of affairs, what's the minimum level of fitness we could be maintaining? Would you be maintaining if you were there at the moment?
Yeah,
what's the minimum level?
I just got to tell you, I feel like that especially having seen what we saw, and for what I saw when I came back on February 5th, man, and saw a place the size of Shenzhen with like barely anybody out, like that I feel like I need to apologize to all my people in the States for not calling people up and letting them know
It was
that
coming.
that it was coming. Because
coming.
that right there, when you
That's
can,
our fault.
yeah, that's real. Like I want to have a healthy sense of responsibility and a healthy sense of shame around that. Like I feel like I knew better.
Right.
I was in shock, frankly.
Right.
I was really in a suspended state of shock. But I feel like as circumstances landed me, if had I been able to see the combination of those, had I been able to see that and get on, I might have went into prison fitness mode even if I didn't see Shenzhen get shut down.
Right.
I might have seriously just started hitting it, everything, dips, push-ups, yada yada yada. Because I that's just by the grace of God, hopefully I never will be ever locked up. But I never got locked up. But I've been around enough people to know that that's the level you want to be on, because that's out here.
Next week, I really want to have a conversation on the next pod about body positivity.
All right.
Because I'm a strong, coming from a background where a lot of bigger people, blessed people that are roundly blessed in my family.
Fluffy. That's what Arnold Schwarzenegger would have called
fluffy
him back in the
people.
day. You're fluffy.
You're
You
fluffy.
You need to get some of your fluff.
But that's the thing.
Tough on your fluff.
That's the thing. I don't support
Shout
that
out to
narrative.
Terminator.
I don't support the narrative of telling people what to do with their bodies. I believe in body positivity, and that people just believing in the goodness of themselves and goodness of their humanness,
Right on.
regardless of what their body looks like.
Right on.
But for me personally, I feel that there's a lot of power, there's a lot of confidence, there's a lot of health benefits in being a healthy individual, eating a certain way and living your life a certain way and exercising.
All right.
So for me, I want to try to keep a certain level of fitness because, like you said, you never know.
You never know when never know when it's going down.
And for me, that's one thing that inspires me to want to do more pull-ups, because like pull-ups, literally, you can save your life or save somebody else's life with your ability to do a pull-up. The ability to pull your own
How so,
self up,
a.black?
Because the ability to pull your own weight
Uh-huh.
above a certain level
Uh-huh.
can prevent you from dying in certain cases.
That's
So
real talk. Yo,
That's real talk.
you know what this reminds me of?
Yep.
One of my favorite stories, man. I wish I could remember the name of the book. I can't remember the name of the book, but I want to say that the woman who's the author of the book won. If she didn't win a Nobel, I think she won a Nobel Peace Prize for writing this book. There's a woman who she's a survivor of the Khmer Rouge. Okay.
Oh wow.
In Cambodia. Yeah, and I read her book, and in her book she talked about
Shouts to Cambodia.
yeah, big shout outs to Cambodia. In her book, she talked about what it was like when that whole thing went down, and that in the end, when they finally were able to escape this camp, this re-education camp, where her father had been murdered and a bunch of people like that, they had to march to Thailand from where they were. Right, it was a long way. Also, big shout out to this brother Townsend, wherever you are, Townsend, Liberian brother, who I was in boot camp with, man. Who this dude, his bunk was right across from mine, and right across in diagonal, one across from me. And my man was a young man from Liberia, man, who hadn't seen his family in 3 years, had his life torn apart by the Civil War, that was taking place there in Liberia and Sierra Leone, and marched 500 miles with an army behind him, trying to murder everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like that part. And I remember listening to this brother, and when he was talking to me about the situation, right? Like that really was, that was one of them things where I always wanted to be able to pick up game where I could get it from, about being able to
Pick
protect
up game
myself.
where you can get it.
But when my man, when he told me that story right there, and that's nothing that we, in the States, people heard of that, right? Blood Diamonds, Kanye, shout out to The Rock, right? Shout out to all of that. But that's at the time when that song was out. And so people knew, right? Because Ye was out there. If y'all don't know, Ye been making noise, right? So I was in 2002, August 2002. I'm in boot camp, and my man is out there, and just telling me straight up, like, yeah, man, like we marched for hundreds of miles, nonstop. You got to shit, you shit on yourself. You got to eat, you eat while you're moving. You know what I mean? Motherfuckers dropping dead next to you. So just that kind of stuff, man. Like life can get real on you out here. Yeah. Nothing is promised, man. Nothing. Don't think just because you've been sitting pretty and all the rest of that it can't happen to you. There's plenty of times in history where the world got turned upside down, just like that. Yeah, you need to be ready.
So what are we gonna do to get ready?
What we gonna do?
What are we gonna do?
What we gonna do?
We decided.
All this doom and gloom.
We decided.
All this doom and gloom.
We decided to take all of this energy all of this angst, all of these emotions, and put it into a challenge.
Hey.
A physical challenge for ourselves.
Hey.
And this challenge is for us. We would love for some of you to join us if you decide, but we're going to do the MURPH challenge. So MURPH is a guy that was in the Navy, that was in the armed services. I'm not sure if he was a SEAL or not, but he created this challenge. And in the challenge, it starts with you run a mile, and then you do 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and then another mile.
Get some.
And you do it consecutively.
Get some.
And the idea is that you're supposed to do it all under an hour.
Get some.
But our challenge is we're just going to focus on completing it. And so
the next time we do it.
We plan to do it, and next time we'll do it, and we'll time it. And actually, you're supposed to wear a 20-pound weight vest, too, when you do it.
Wear 20-pound
but
weight
we ain't going to
go
that hard.
Out just completing the challenge.
So, Father's Day is coming up.
Hey.
June 21st. Juneteenth is coming up.
Hey.
And so, in our way of channeling all of this energy,
body bag,
that's coming from what's happening,
pass the bag,
all across the world, with health, with the pandemic,
body
with
bag,
brutality, all of that. We're gonna channel it into this MURPH challenge.
Pass the
so
bag.
we're gonna do a podcast while we're doing the MURPH challenge.
Body bag.
And we're gonna take it to the next level. Training starts today.
Pass the
Today's
bag.
June 1st. You got 21 days. There will be a link of a training program in the description below if you want to join.
Body bag.
If you want to join us in the body bag and training for the MURPH challenge.
Pass the bag.
1 mile, 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and another mile. You can do it. We believe in you. We're gonna do it because, like, initially we was like, let's do it at the end of the season. And he's like, nah, we can do it now. So then I was like, how much time you need? He's like, let's think of a date. We looked at the calendar. Sunday, June 21st is Father's Day.
Yeah.
You know, and we both have the goal of wanting to be wonderful fathers.
One day.
And so this is us, in essence,
wonderful
paying
men,
tribute
wonderful
to the
fathers,
ancestors,
wonderful husbands,
paying tribute to
protectors.
all the people that passed away for COVID, paying tribute to all the people that might lose their lives protesting, standing up for what they believe in.
Right.
We're gonna stand with you.
That's right.
By respecting the temple that it is our body.
That's right.
And putting it to work. Your body's a temple.
Woo!
It's one thing from religion that I believe wholeheartedly.
Right.
Your body is a temple. So.
All right.
Body is a temple, so I meditate to it. That's a stick man. Shout to Dead Prayers. The Workout, great album. All right, so can you join us? Will you join us? Let us know if you're gonna be joining us in the MURPH challenge. Get this body bag. And speaking of being super healthy, we're gonna get into the next bag.
Let's do it.
All right, so we're getting into our last bag of the day.
What bag is that, a.black?
It's the ball bag.
What bag?
It's the ball bag. Like when you play a sport specifically, and you're youngin' on the team.
Oh man.
They make you carry the ball bag.
Oh man.
They be like, you about to have practice or gym, you about to have PE, physical education. The teacher brings out the ball bag. That's the best day of the week.
All right.
You see the ball bag come out, that means you about to ball.
All right.
About to ball out.
All right.
And
Let's get into the ball bag.
Let's get into the ball bag. The NBA is thinking about different strategies on how they're going to reopen. And teams have started reopening their facilities with very strict rules, no more than 4 players at a time, and no one-on-one, no workouts together, none of that. And so there's a few different scenarios that Adam Silver and the owners, and that they don't like to be called owners anymore.
NBA, send them checks.
The commissioner, send them checks. NBA.
Send them checks.
We would love to be sponsored by you guys.
They don't like to be called owners anymore.
They don't like to be called. We never gonna get them check if we say stuff like that. You're not gonna get a check saying stuff like that. No, I'm not editing out nothing. You're not gonna give me more work because you just want to speak your mind, motherfucker. All right. So they have a few different scenarios on how they can return to play. Yeah, exactly. That's funny. They're gonna go straight to the playoffs with the top 16 teams.
Straight to the playoffs.
And they even considering,
playoffs?
They even considering breaking up the conferences and just doing it 1 through 16.
1 through 16.
And not doing it East and West.
All right.
They're thinking about just bringing back 20 teams and having some of the other teams, the bottom 4 teams, vying for the AFC.
Okay.
They're having that idea.
All right.
They're thinking about doing it like World Cup style.
All right.
No, it's all good. No problem. May win team.
Yeah.
They talking about doing it World Cup style.
All right. World Cup style.
And having a World Cup style elimination. and they also considering bringing back all 30 teams.
All 30 teams.
So,
Those are good
what
options.
scenario would you like to see? I know which one I would like to see.
Well, I'm going like this. I like
Which scenario could you envision like being really cool?
I like the one where you bring in 20. You let the ones fight for the AC, right? I like that one.
I like that one plus one of the other ones. I think you bring in 20, right? But then once you do the regular season, you do the regular season like World Cup style.
Okay.
And then you reseed.
I like that World Cup style. That's great too.
You reseed based on
on the World Cup tournament.
Based on the World Cup tournament.
Results.
So you start with a tournament.
Yeah.
And then those results lead to just going back to the regular playoff format once you get 16 teams.
All right. Yeah, no, I think they're great. Now I could tell you one of the things that I can tell you.
Awesome.
One of the things that I can tell you is that I did watch a video where they said that playing 12 regular season games would get them to where the players could get the max revenue from the TV contracts. Because the TV contract said that there had to be a minimum number of games that were played, and that when the season got shut down, there were 12 games away from that. So you got to use the 12 games.
Oh, you need that
as the warm up,
the baller bag,
to get everybody who's going to be in the tournament ready for the tournament.
Since according to what's his name? We talked about it last week.
Which brother? He's from ESPN.
Portland.
Oh, Dame?
Not Dame. The other one.
Oh, C.J. McCollum.
According to C.J. McCollum,
you
know, half of the NBA and John Sally say half the NBA is living paycheck to paycheck anyway. So these guys need them checks.
They say 1/3. Don't say half.
No, I think he said half. Bro.
No, he said 1/3. He said 1/3.
A third.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah. 150 or 400. He said a third.
Oh, well, yeah.
Yeah.
So a third of them are living. That's more than a third, actually. But same thing. Same, but different.
Yeah, we got it.
A third of
but
them
different.
are living paycheck to paycheck. So they need that bag.
Let's go.
But it got us to thinking. ESPN put out a list of the top 10. Of the top 74 players of all time.
Man, big shout out to ESPN, man. What a wonderful network.
Shout out to Disney. Send them checks.
Send the checks. Send the checks.
So we want to take two of Disney enterprises and compare them.
Send those checks. Send those checks.
Send those checks.
Pass the bag. Who does it best? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Send those checks. Send those checks.
You like that? Oh,
that was great.
Thank you.
We looked at the top 10 list of ESPN's list of all-time players.
And then what?
And we were thinking like,
oh yeah,
we love superheroes. We love the superhero narrative, the superhero story. I do. I can't speak for you. I love Marvel superheroes and narrative. It's one of the reasons also why I work out, because I want to be in a superhero movie one day. We're gonna be in Blade 2 or 3 when it happens. I promise.
In the future, we're gonna get that one. We're
gonna be in that bag. We're gonna be in.
We're getting the rights to that. We speaking that bag into existence.
We speaking that bag.
We're getting the rights to that.
We want it to happen. I'm gonna be there. So it came up. What superheroes would you compare the top 10 ESPN's top 10 list of players to? It came up today.
I love it. What'd you say, A.black?
Coming in at number 10 on their list.
All right.
We won't discuss the list. The order of the list. You can debate that all you want. Let us know if they got it right, if they got it wrong. I say they got it right, but that's just me. Which Marvel heroes or villains could you compare ESPN top 10 NBA players to? Let's start with Shaq. We believe that Shaq is the same. Who did you have for Shaq? What Marvel hero or villain did you have for Shaq?
None other than
Shaquille O'Neal.
None other than David Bruce Banner.
Indeed.
The gamma rays.
We both felt like
I'm a basketball genius.
We both felt like Shaquille O'Neal was the Hulk.
Yeah,
and
definitely the Hulk.
Definitely the Hulk. And the reason why we say that, and just unstoppable.
I was watching him I was watching him as a boy.
I was too.
We both was watching Shaq, and what was Shaq doing?
And he's an unstoppable force.
He was mashing the Eastern Conference to pieces.
And the West.
And the angrier the angrier that you got him, the more points he scored, the harder he dunked, the more rebounds he pulled.
He was an intimidator, but he also thought the game. He was, and he proves it all the time as an analyst.
Absolutely.
As an Emmy Award winning analyst.
Absolutely. Shaquille.
And so that's why he has both sides. He has the David Banner side because he can analyze the game, he can think the game, but he's also he can become an intimidating force. So that's why we felt like he was the Hulk. And we agreed on that one, but we don't agree on a lot of them. But
that's okay.
Coming in on number 9 on the list was his teammate, his running partner, rest in peace, Kobe
Bean,
Black Mama,
Kobe
Bean Bryant.
Let's go, baby. Rest
So,
in peace, Gianna.
would you like? Yeah, rest in peace, Kobe and Gianna, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tragic
I
loss.
go ahead. I'm gonna tell y'all something.
Who did you
I'm gonna tell
think
y'all something.
Kobe was?
In the Marvel universe, there's a lot of interstellar stuff happening. You got the Skrulls over here. You got the Nova Force over there. Inhumans, Galactus. The Marvel universe is mad cosmic, y'all. And one of the things that happens is that you have humanoids that come from other planets. And, you also have mutants on other planets, mutant humanoids on other planets. And the king out there from the Inhumans is a gentleman by the name of Black Bolt, who is only one of the most powerful humanoids person in the human body. He ain't no super giant, not doing no stuff like that. His body stays the same, but the way that power runs through him and his special abilities are. Now, here's the thing. When Kobe Bryant and Jalen Rose have said it over and over and over again, this is why I'm going with Black Bolt.
Mm-hmm.
He said when Jalen Rose, who was in that game,
81.
that when Kobe hit that 81 points, he said that Kobe said, how many words?
Nothing.
Kobe didn't say a word. Black Bolt's power is that he has to stay silent. His voice is this supersonic weapon. Even if he whispers, he can level continents. He's a planetary level force. The dude can level a whole solar system. If he screams as loud as he can, we don't know what'll happen. He messed up Thanos and with his voice. Anyway, all I gotta say is Kobe Bean, that dude being one of the best dudes to ever play, and Black Bolt is definitely one of the strongest people ever written into the Marvel comics. And the fact that Black Bolt must stay silent. That's how I'm giving Kobe Bean Bryant to Black Bolt, the king.
I love that comparison.
Thank you.
And I think you like mine too.
Let's go.
So when I thought of Kobe Bean Bryant, I thought of the cold-blooded killer. He is a killer, the Black Mamba, a snake.
All he does is kill.
He
Kill.
silently will put you away.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I thought about that, I was like, man, what hero comes to mind that's a cold-blooded killer? I thought of Blade.
The Blade Man.
Because Blade, if you know Blade's story, he's a part vampire,
That's right.
part
he is
human.
part vampire, part human.
So he's cold-blooded. But then as you learn more and more about Kobe Bean Bryant, especially in his retirement phase, you learned of how much he was a family man he was. He was, and how much of a warm side he had. Like he's been here to Shenzhen. I know people who've met him plenty of times.
Yeah,
They say he's had a very warm personality. He was very encouraging. He wanted to be the best at everything, including business, whether it be basketball or business. He wanted to be the best. And so I felt like the Blade comparison was very poignant because he was cold-blooded, but he had a warm side as well. Just like Blade is cold-blooded. He's half vampire, but he also is half human.
Right on.
And he has that warm side as well.
I appreciate you putting that. I'm supposed to mention, I left this out. I'm supposed to mention that Black Bolt is a family man as well.
He is.
Yeah,
he is a family man.
His wife, who is the queen of their kingdom, is very important, and she also speaks for him. And yeah. Big shout out to Kobe Bean.
Shout out to Kobe
Terrible
Bean.
loss.
Terrible. Horrible. So number 8 on the ESPN list of all-time players of all time, and maybe the best power forward of all time, is Mr. Fundamental.
I'm
from the Virgin Islands.
I will wrestle anybody who disagrees that he's the best power forward, and I'll take that beat down. If you can beat me up, I'll be proud to get beat up to maybe not, but still.
The best power forward of all time, Mr. Fundamental Duncan.
Listen, big fundamentals
and
big respect. Shout out to the Virgin Islands. Y'all.
Shout out to the Virgin Islands. What do you think? What do you think about
Tim
Duncan?
I said that none other than our Asgardian, all right? I said Tim Duncan is Thor, all right? Because when I think about the team element, him only playing for the Spurs, that reminded me a lot of the Avengers. And just the fact that, Thor he's not going to hit you with any surprises. You know what Thor does. He got a hammer. He got some armor. He's pretty strong. He flies. And that's good enough.
Right.
Tim Duncan ain't going to hit you with no surprises.
Nah.
He going to bring the same weapons every time.
Right.
Not like a Tony Stark's. I got to do something different, get creative, right? Not like, they got other superheroes out there. No. Thor, same dude, same party, is going down. The story, never gets old.
Right.
It's always good enough.
Right.
It's a great story. You just want to see him do the same
Comes
thing
from a foreign
over and
land.
over. Yeah,
Comes
from
from
a
a
foreign
foreign
land.
land.
You want to see him do the same thing over and over and over again.
Love it.
And
Love the comparison.
absolutely the man.
Love the comparison. And yeah, but I went in a different direction. I said Colossus.
Okay.
I said Colossus from the X-Men.
Shout out to the
And,
USSR.
And the reason I said Colossus is because Colossus was very fundamental, man. And he was huge.
Mm.
He was a machine. He was literally a machine. And he was super strong, and he was super loyal. And I feel the same way about Tim Duncan, just being a super loyal guy, and just not a man of many words. Doesn't need them. Fundamentals.
I'm gonna show my nerdy side here for a second, talking about Colossus. Because the inside of the Marvel universe with the mutants, they wrote in something called the Legacy virus, which if you never got into it, the Legacy virus was a virus that came through and started killing all the mutants. It was genetically engineered against them, right? And was super effective and was running wild. And in order to stop the Legacy virus, Colossus actually sacrificed himself to stop the Legacy virus. But, that's just nerdy Marvel stuff. You know what I mean? Shout out to Colossus. It was definitely one of the most important X-Men, one of the most important mutants ever.
Number 7 on the
that's
list is the legend, the living legend, Larry Bird.
Birdman.
The Birdman.
The original Birdman.
What happened to that boy?
Hey.
What happened to that? He was talking. We put a clap into that.
What up, Dirty?
Shouts to Pusha.
What up, Dirty?
Shouts to Pusha T.
Hey.
So, Larry Bird, who you got?
I mean, hey, I'm gonna tell y'all something. I'm ready. Doom. Bird is a Celtic. And if you don't know about the Boston Celtics, go ahead and look into the Boston Celtics. First of all, Doom was one of the smartest people ever in the Marvel universe. And as far as villains goes, one of the most powerful villains ever in the Marvel universe. Doom had a long history with a rival from a group known as the Fantastic Four. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. And, they came up together. And if it wasn't for his rival, then he wouldn't have become Doom. In a way, they were the yin and the yang of the type of a situation. And that storyline, Doom and the Fantastic Four, really carried Marvel Comics for a long time. Just like how Bird and his, adversary who would grow into his loved one did. The fact that the dude was just a serious genius, man, with the game, and that and the Boston Celtics really being if you ask me, Boston Celtics is on some bad guy ish, right? Like that's how I feel about them. So I'm gonna say Doom, the Doom bots, everybody who came after Larry. There's a lot of people who Larry was the prototype for small forwards for a long time. When because of the way that he played the game, people wanted to come in and they wanted to be like Bird before they wanted to be like Michael. A lot of dudes did.
Yeah.
So all them little Doom bots, the fact that the man's intelligence was just, off the charts. I love the stories that they would tell about checking Larry Bird. They say he'd tell you exactly what he was gonna do, and then do it. He would tell you what he was gonna do with the inbound pass. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go around the screen. I'm gonna go to this spot right here. I'm gonna turn around, and it's gonna be nothing but net. It'll be the last play of the game. So many players are telling them stories, and they say that he'd do it. He'd tell you exactly what he was gonna do, and he'd do it. I'm just okay. So that's how I feel. Who did you say?
And that's why I said who I said.
Who'd you say?
Because he was a supreme shit talker.
All right.
I said Deadpool.
The Merc with the mouth.
Yeah, the Merc with the mouth. I mean, everything we know about Deadpool is that, he loved to talk shit. He had a big bag of tricks. That he had all these different toys and all these different tools that he could use to murk you. He used his weapons very wisely.
Yeah.
And so same with Larry Bird. He's a great defensive player, great shooter, great teammate, great passer. See the game, think the game, visionary, one of the best ever to do it. Yep. And so
they say he was the best at talk. They say nobody talks smack better than Larry Bird.
And when it comes to the Marvel universe, I think Deadpool talks the game better than anybody.
Most definitely.
So let's keep it moving. Number 6 on the list.
Who'd you say for number 6?
Big man, Wilt Chamberlain.
The Stilt.
Wilt the Stilt.
Mr. 10,000 himself.
Mr. 100 points in the game. Nobody's ever done it. Nobody's even gotten close except Kobe Bean.
Kobe Bean.
And that would be
an NBA game.
in an NBA game.
Big shout out, rest in peace, Dragan Petrovic. Dragan Petrovic scored 112 points in Croatia.
Yeah, but shout out to the young lady that scored like 132 points in the game.
Word up.
I remember that.
Yeah, she's still playing, ain't she?
Yeah,
she coming going to WNBA.
No
soon,
no idea.
Okay, all right.
This happened a long time
Don't know
ago.
about that. All right, cool.
But look it up. Wilt Chamberlain. I said Wilt Chamberlain was Luke Cage.
All right. Power man himself.
Power man himself. Number one, because Luke Cage is super powerful. He has undeniable strength, so much strength. Like he can do anything with his body. He can't even get hit by bullets, man. He's a man of steel in some ways. And I initially said maybe Shaq was Luke Cage, and I was like, nah. Like I'm gonna back off because Luke Cage is also a ladies' man.
Oh, okay.
And
Hey.
if you know anything about Wilt the Stilt,
hey,
then you know that he was also a ladies' man.
That's a whole bunch of little dudes walking around.
A lot of little Wilts. A lot of little Wilts walking around somewhere. So I thought Luke Cage was a healthy comparison. What did you think?
I appreciate you putting Luke Cage in the limelight, man. He deserves that.
Yeah, I love
He was a really wonderful, important
yeah,
person for the
Netflix
Marvel franchise.
dropped that bag, man.
I'm not going to touch that one because I want Netflix to send the checks. Hey, but seriously, though, I gave this Wilt Chamberlain situation a lot of thought, and I wanted to also, think about the balance of powers. So I gave this one to the leader of the Brotherhood of Mutants himself, the master of magnetism, one of the greatest. I'm not talking about that stuff that Ian McKellen did. I'm talking about the books now. Magneto. That's why I gave Wilt the Stilt. I feel like because of the situation where him and another person who's on this list being the axes of big men in the NBA for so many years, it was two people out there that was absolute monsters that you had to go through, and they had different styles of play, but these two big men absolutely dominated the situation. Yeah. And Wilt was one of those big men who absolutely dominated the situation. And he was super duper ahead of his time, just like how Magneto is as a villain, as a person who, that longevity, all the stuff that was born, man. That's all I got to say. I gave that one to Magneto.
So we just went through 10 through 5.
Absolute force to be reckoned with.
We're gonna split the bag and finish up the top 5 in a second. Getting into the top 5, ESPN's top 5 basketball players to ever live, to ever do it.
As superheroes.
At number 5, as superheroes, as Marvel heroes.
As Marvel superheroes.
Let us know if you like this segment. If you would like to see more comparisons to superheroes, maybe from other genres, actors, rappers. We had an idea of doing it with rappers as well. Maybe we'll do it. Let us know if you like it. We would love to do it for you.
Let's go, baby.
At number 5.
At number 5.
Showtime.
Hey.
Showtime.
$1 billion smile.
The $1 billion smile. The business mogul himself, Mr. Irvin Magic Johnson.
First man to beat HIV down. Hey, he did it.
He did it.
Magic. Hey.
So, leads us to the conversation. Who do you think is Magic Johnson?
Well, I'm going to say Magic. We talked about Doom earlier. We talked about Doom having that person that drove him. And that's going to be Magic Johnson as Mr. Fantastic. First of all, Mr. Fantastic, Magic Johnson, that just goes so well together.
So well together.
If you don't know about Mr. Fantastic, he was brilliant, one of the most brilliant men in the Marvel Universe. They've only written so many people in the Marvel Universe that have a certain level of intelligence. The Hulk,
Professor X,
Henry Pym, Professor X, Tony Starks.
Yep.
These are the most brilliant minds.
And Mr. Fantastic.
Doom, and Mr. Fantastic. These are the smartest, the biggest, most impactful brains in the Marvel Universe, man. And Magic did it.
Yeah, and don't forget the Wakandan princess.
Oh right, yep, homegirl. So yeah, man, we're talking about the situation where Magic Johnson came in and the Fantastic Four carried Marvel for a long time as a franchise, just like how Magic Johnson carried the NBA for a long time, coming out of the Lakers as a franchise.
For sure.
And Magic, man, he just absolutely did so much, just like how Mr. Fantastic could flex and stretch, and he was everywhere if he wanted to be. If he, Magic having that big body, right?
Yeah. He played point guard and center.
Man.
He started NBA Finals as a center.
How about that?
His rookie year.
6'9".
Right.
6'9" point guard. Revolutionized in the same way. Mr. Fantastic really did a great job of the Fantastic Four really revolutionized the superhero team. Because the Avengers wasn't really that hot for a second.
No.
And if y'all look at the history of Marvel, Avengers was cool, but when they
X-Men and Fantastic Four were much bigger teams than Avengers.
Yeah, Fantastic Four was a deal. Yeah, because they really had that balance. Plus, they had the fact that they had Sue written in there as a woman who was on the team who was important. But yeah, Magic Johnson, Mr. Fantastic.
I went with and I love how you did it because like the duality of certain players, they fit together, and that was smart the way you planned that out. So I give you much props on that because I didn't do that.
Right on.
But at the end of the day, these guys were also teammates.
Okay.
So it's also one reason why I kind of did it the way I did it.
Boom. Let's go.
So when I think of Magic Johnson, I thought of Spider-Man. Because Magic Johnson played for one team his whole career.
All right.
And he has evolved so much. You've seen so many different sides of him, just like you've seen so many different Spider-Man brands. Like when it comes to like what his brand has meant and what has stood for since the creation of Marvel, his brand has just continually evolved.
That's right.
Like over time,
That's right.
like, always evolving.
Absolutely.
And he's just a lovable guy. He's a lovable character. I think he's probably the most relatable and lovable character out of a lot of the Marvel characters. He's definitely one of the most popular.
Absolutely.
If not the most popular.
Absolutely.
He
is the most popular.
He's the most popular for sure, and he's loyal to his community, just like Magic Johnson's loyal to the L.A. area, and that's Michigan as well. And
oh man, it's a Michigan.
And he's a transitional star, so
baby.
So that's why I say Magic Johnson.
What's up, Magic?
A Spider. Let us know what
up, baby. We love you, baby.
Magic.
Send
past that bag.
Pass the bag, Magic.
You got the bag.
Pass the bag.
Let's get into number 4. Another Celtic.
All right.
Maybe if you use rings to determine who's the most, the greatest of all time, he has 11.
If rings are a measure of success, it's no contest.
He has 11. Ain't nobody even close. Let's talk about Bill Russell.
Big Willie.
Big Bill.
Yeah,
Big Bill Russell.
$100 bill.
$100.
Call it $100 Bill
awesome.
Russell.
So when I thought of Big Bill Russell, I thought of him as Professor X.
All right.
Because he's a winner, ultimate team player, and he was a player coach.
Right on.
So just like Professor X would be coaching, giving the direction, had the vision, and would get into people's minds. That's why I saw the comparison there because he played. He was out. Professor X was out there putting in work just like everybody else.
Yeah,
but he also had the vision, and he was coaching, and he was giving guidance and all that stuff.
Yeah, right
so
on.
that's why I say Professor X. What do you think?
I like that because Bill Russell was one of the first player coaches out there.
Yeah,
real notable. I went with Captain America.
Nice.
For Bill Russell.
I loved it.
I went with Captain America for Bill Russell because, from what I hear of the way that Bill Russell did it, was Bill Russell was out there out hustling everybody. I heard that Bill Rudd, the way that they said that he used to play was that he was all motor all the time. He was all motor all the time. They used to he was a dude who they did their best to play away from. If you were playing and Bill Russell was on the other team, you did your best to play away from him as much as possible. And you still ended up succumbing to what it was that he had going on in the situation. Captain America being one of them dudes who super soldier, he gonna get out there, he gonna outfight you. He got the heart.
Out-heart you.
Yeah, absolutely. Got the heart. He got the values. You know what I mean? Real strong character, especially with, Bill Russell being of the type of background that he came from out in Boston. You had to have a heart to stay in there,
And so many values, man. Bill Russell, he stands with protesters still to this day.
Yeah, absolutely. He don't play.
He takes his role as a leader in the community very seriously, just like Captain America.
Just like Captain America.
I love
that
comparison.
A lot of responsibility, man.
I love that comparison.
Yeah,
because he was one of the first athletes to really stand on the table and take responsibility for the community.
Absolutely.
And that's beautiful to me. So when you say Captain America, it makes me proud.
Yeah,
it makes me real proud to that comparison.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And, shouts to Bill Russell, man.
Right, Steve Rogers, Bill Russell.
He's amazing. He's amazing.
Coming in at numero 3.
Didn't he wear number 33?
I don't know. I can't remember.
33? Yeah.
Did he wear?
I think he was 33. We still need to have that conversation, the best 33s of all time. But
Captain Hook.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. the all-time NBA
The most
leading
unstoppable
scorer,
move.
the most unstoppable NBA scorer of all time. I know you know James Harden. I know you know Steph Curry. I know you know MJ. But when it talks about putting the ball in the basket, there was not one better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Number one all time.
So when we started having a discussion, I was like, man, who could Kareem be? And for me, I think Kareem is like Beast from X-Men.
All right.
Beast is also one of the more brilliant minds
That's right.
in the Marvel universe,
Definitely.
and super brilliant,
Definitely.
super eloquent, but also a monster.
All right.
Like also part monster, you know,
Alright.
like, and because of that, he has both sides. He has the duality, just like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar is an activist,
All right.
is an actor,
All right.
is a martial artist, and one of the greatest scorers and basketball players and defenders, shot blockers of all time.
Absolutely.
He's a beast, and he has a mind, and he thinks. So that's why I thought the Beast was a great comparison. What did you think?
Yeah, we went in a similar direction here.
Same team.
Same team. X-Men. Yeah, I went with the professor himself.
Yeah.
You know, I like the idea of having that polarization between Wilt and Kareem, and I also enjoy besides the obvious ball thing. I thought that was great to set that up because Kareem rocking the baldy before the baldy was the baldy.
Yeah.
But absolutely, man, him being person
goggles.
who led that team. Just like how Kareem led those Lakers for a long time.
Long time.
And just like how, a lot of the Lakers, success was riding on Kareem's back for a long time. How the X-Men, was riding on what it was that Xavier, did for them, the intelligence, the fact that, Kareem really was a thinking man. He was the type of person who, sometimes overthought, right? Just like the professor in a lot of those storylines you'll see. But, just the fact of that kind of mind control, man. I've heard all these stories about how, I don't want to act like I've heard so many stories, but I've read and seen enough interviews and read enough stories where people will talk about what it was like to get ready to play against Kareem.
Go ahead.
They would just say, they would just say, look, you're not going to stop him. Get used to it. Yeah, that's what they would say. They would say, do your best. But if you're the type of person who you're going to fall apart over, like, you're going to get that work. Whoever, when Kareem came on the floor, you was going to get that work. Think about that. Like, somebody who the move, the way that they're going to do what they do, you're not going to stop. He's the number one leading scorer. He scored everybody.
He gave everybody buckets.
He gave everybody the business. And just like how Professor X was the most powerful telepath in the Marvel Universe.
Until Jean Grey.
Well, yeah, until Jean Grey. But
But he was dying.
Jean Grey went up and down.
Right,
she was, she flared, But yes, man. That's all I got to say about that situation. Kareem,
Top 3.
Professor X.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. Shouts to him.
Yeah, that's a beautiful brother, man.
Brings me into my guy.
Hey.
Drafted 2003.
Hey. Akron, stand
Akron, Ohio's own. In Northeast Ohio, nothing is given. Everything is earned.
Whoa.
Shouts to my brother, one of my idols.
Right on.
And one of the people that inspired me so much, his name is LeBron James.
James.
Number 2 on the list.
The king.
Your pick for this was very interesting, and I would like for you to explain because it's a character I'm not so familiar with, and some of you might not be familiar with it.
So there's a couple of things that happened. So I had to decide between these two people. So Jean Grey and Scott Summers had a child. That child was Nate Grey. Because X-Men have alternate universes.
Right.
Cable is Nate Grey from the alternate universe where the legacy virus never got stopped. So Cable with the glowing eye and the metal arm is using all of his powers that were given to him from his mother and his father constantly to keep the legacy virus in check so that it doesn't engulf his whole body and destroy him, right?
Wow.
But in the alternate universe where the legacy virus is cured, Cable is simply Nate Grey, who is, for all intents and purposes, like a super duper mutant. Because I know that, certain media didn't do a good job of giving Cyclops his due. Cyclops and Jean were absolutely they were the most important mutants that were written into the storyline of mutants in the Marvel universe and in the X-Men. Everything that happened with the X-Men revolved around
For sure, them two.
them two and their storyline. And so when they had that offspring, Nate Gray was a super duper big deal. He was basically the strongest mutant, ultra super duper powerful telepath, also had telekinesis. And we talk about being the strongest mutant. Got to put that in there, right?
Yeah, especially when it comes to LeBron James.
And one more. So I said he's either, or you also have Franklin Richards.
Who is this?
Franklin Richards is the son of Sue, the Invisible Woman, and Reed, who is Mr. Fantastic. So even though they were not mutants, right, their genomes were altered up in space during a cosmic event. When they decided that they wanted to have a child, one of those children was Franklin, and Franklin, I believe, was born a mutant, and his mutant abilities are, even in a way, I don't like the way that they wrote him because his powers were, they kind of didn't know what they wanted to do, but he was kind of like had that godlike complex to him, where he was just incredible, So the point is that the power, the raw power, the youth, and the raw power, and LeBron James being born, because he was born into it. He was born to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Who'd you say?
I said the king.
All right.
The king can only be compared to another king.
Let's go.
So I went with Black Panther as a comparison for LeBron James because again, born into it.
Born to do it.
But also just like having a network of support.
All right.
A network of support that like with him being Spring Hill Entertainment, him bringing his boys in, and they building a business together, making $1 billion entertainment company,
right on,
and businesses and
right
everything
on.
that they've done.
Right
Shouts
on.
to all those guys.
Heyo.
And so same with Black Panther. It's a family organization.
Family affair. Absolutely.
It's a family affair.
Absolutely.
His little sister being involved, his mother being the queen.
Absolutely.
And but with Black Panther, he's a community leader as well. And I feel like LeBron has definitely taken the mantle as someone who's not going to like just not say anything when he sees injustice. He uses his voice very well.
That's right.
He understands his power.
That's right.
And LeBron's put the smack down on some of your favorite heroes, just like Black Panther put the smack down on some of your favorite heroes and villains.
Oh yeah.
And it's really, and he just has a bag of tricks, man. He just can do it all. He can do it all and still be a king at the same time.
Shout out to King James.
And so shout out to him. They have a beautiful family, just like Black Panther ended up with Storm. You got
right.
LeBron and Savannah,
right.
building businesses and building an empire and building a wonderful family. So I felt like that was the best comparison because arguably for me, Black Panther is one of the best heroes of all time.
Man, I dig it.
LeBron same way. That's why I looked at it.
I dig it. Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's get back to the last one.
Last but not least.
The last but certainly not least.
Whoa.
Changed the game forever for everybody.
Whoa.
The last dancer himself.
Mr. Three-Peat.
Mr. Three-Peat twice. The double down Three-Peat. One of the greatest to ever do it, if not the greatest.
Bet on it.
Is
Michael. Bet on it.
Michael Jeffrey Jordan, a.k.a. MJ, a.k.a. Jordan, a.k.a. Reggie Miller called him the Black Cat.
A.k.a. owner of the Charlotte Hornets.
A.k.a. yeah.
A.k.a. where'd you get those shoes?
A.k.a. what are those?
What are those?
MJ.
Mr. Michael.
Well, you want to start first on MJ?
I don't mind.
Because yours was,
I don't mind.
was great.
Michael Spider-Man.
All right.
Because Spider-Man is the face of the organization.
Red and black?
That part.
Yeah.
Listen, the thing about Spider-Man, a lot of people who, might be new to Marvel Comics or whatever, or, might only have their orientation to certain media that was produced, is that the thing about Spider-Man is that Spider-Man, I love this. DC has Superman, and Superman was lame for a lot of people because it was like,
so lame.
He's just a humanoid alien. He's an alien who masquerades as a human who is just, indestructible and boring, frankly. Yeah, he's boring.
Do everything.
Yeah, he's boring.
His weakness is a green rock.
Yeah, and a woman.
Yeah.
Now, how about that? So,
well, that's the part of his story that actually makes sense.
Well, yeah, but check it though. Check it. Now, Spider-Man, on the other hand, was the unlikely #1 hero ever.
Right.
And Jordan was an unlikely
#1
player ever. If you don't know about the NBA, if you look at that top 10 list, a lot of big men on that list, ain't it? A.black.
Yeah.
The big man is still the way to go.
Most of them are big.
Listen, even in these days right
everybody's bigger than Jordan on this list.
now. Absolutely. Even in these days right now, people
Except
can
Kobe.
say what they want to say about the big man, yada, yada, yada. But the thing is that these days you just want a big man who can do all of those things that the
Right.
players are doing these days. It's not that you don't want a big man.
Right.
You want a big man who can
handle the rock.
handle
pass
it
the
right.
ball.
Yeah, KDZ.
Right.
KDZ 6'11".
Right.
So and
Giannis.
I mean,
is
yeah,
also
exactly.
6'10".
Yeah, who don't want that?
Anthony Davis.
Who don't want that?
Right.
Everybody want that.
Everybody needs
Give
that.
me a Giannis. Give me so the thing about MJ playing number two guard never had that kind of impact before.
Right.
Spider-Man, being a little dude,
Right.
coming, what did he have? Sense of humor, a young guy coming in the game, coming from
Getting bullied.
Getting bullied. You know what I mean? Interesting origin story. The fact that I'm gonna tell y'all, whoever your favorite hero is, Spider-Man gave him that work.
Right.
Spider-Man gave him that work. I love Spider-Man. When I was a kid, this was one of the things that I was really drawn into the comic because I was like, this guy is a dude who the way that they put him together is so creative. Swinging around, just doing whatever it is that he wants to do. He's so deceptively strong, and don't matter how many people you put together, you can only hope to contain him.
And you get caught up in his web too.
Oh yeah, you gonna get caught up.
You get caught up in the web, and Michael Jordan was the same way. The way he thought the game, the way he outsmarted people, the way he played mind games with people. You get caught up in that web real quick.
And Spider-Man was one of them dudes who, the thing about Jordan, like how Jordan had that focus.
Yeah.
Right. Spider-Man was always a driven one.
Spider-Man was super loyal. Like Michael Jordan was very super loyal. Played for one team his whole career.
So I'm rolling with Spider-Man. The face of the organization.
100% respect that. I went in a different direction.
Let's go.
And I went with Doctor Strange. And the reason I say Doctor Strange, because the mentality. Doctor Strange knew his importance. He knew he saw things before they happened because he had the time stone, right?
All right.
He could control time in a certain way.
What's that?
He had the influence of being able to go into the future, see the alternate timelines. MJ was the same way. MJ could see the game before it happens. Like, I think about the play in '98, the game 6, and Karl Malone has the ball on the baseline. He's been posting up Rodman on that side the whole game, and Jordan had been weak side the whole game. And Jordan knew, he saw the future enough to know that he could come weak side and steal the ball from Karl Malone on the winning play, steals the ball, comes down, does the crossover, makes the most famous shot of all time over Byron Russell.
The best offensive foul ever committed.
He didn't push him. His injury was going that
love
way.
it. I love it.
Let us know what you think.
I love
There was no push off in that
Hey
play.
man,
He
that
just
was offensive foul.
That was no foul, man. The
Hey,
man
Jay,
was already going that way.
Do you think Austin Rivers could get that call? Do you think that Austin Rivers could
He was
execute that crossover
already-
and not get called for offensive
He
foul?
was already going that way.
Hey, if that was Austin Rivers, they'd be like.
But that's the thing.
Call
It's
that
not
charge.
Austin Rivers. It's the greatest basketball player of all time doing
Hey,
that.
big shout out to Austin Rivers. I love you, brother.
MJ for me is Doctor Strange because he has the mentality. He has the presence. He's always focused. He's always in the moment. He was always in the moment. That's one thing I learned about watching The Last Dance.
He was definitely in the moment.
He was always in the moment. He's always in the
moment he left the
mental
casino.
in the mental space. Don't be dissing Jordan, man. He was always in the mental space to be prepared to go to battle. And that's one thing about Doctor Strange as well. And the reason, I think the metaphorical reason I made the comparison is the hang time, man. Jordan would be up in the air, man. He glided, man. He would just he would be in the air. People would jump and come down. He's still up there. And so I felt like he controlled time when he was in the air, similar to how Doctor Strange could control time or could manipulate time.
Right on.
And so let us know what you think.
Let us know.
This is our ESPN Top 10 breakdown of the top heroes compared to the top NBA players. We here at Fried Rice. We don't have a PA check-in today, but we here at Fried Rice. They got these dope teas.
We can't do a fried rice check-in.
$2.68. We can do a fried rice check-in.
Yeah, let's get Nolan on.
Is Nolan, where you at, bro?
Nolan, are you here? No, but home.
Maybe they left. But anyway, we want to let you know about these fried rice teas. $2.68 on Taobao. You can cop them joints now.
What up, Kellie?
Get the
What up,
the
Kellie?
surf special,
you.
the Ramones,
Fried rice
the college
University.
college special, the beer pong cup.
Fried Rice University in the building.
In the New York taxi cabs.
Oh man.
Shout out to Fried Rice. Thank you so much for having us.
Listen,
Thank
y'all.
you so much for having us here. We're so happy to be here.
Listen, y'all. If you don't know,
Yeah.
he's a.black. Me. What was my name today? Who knows? I got so many names.
Bobby Pins.
I'm gonna tell y'all something.
Prof P.
It's not enough just for you to get that bag.
You got to know how to keep that bag.
If you want to keep the bag, what you got to do?
You got to
Share
the
bag.
Thank you for tuning in, episode 3. Now kindly pass the bag.
Listen, y'all, we've been loving doing this. Thank you very much. There's a lot of you people out there who have supported us and continue to support us.
For sure.
And so, speaking of support, we want y'all to know that we are in the market for a full-time production assistant here at Pass the Bag Podcast.
So let us know if you would be interested in helping us. Basically, you just help us produce the show, make sure it runs smooth. Because we're on this side of the camera, sometimes we can't control what's happening on the other side of the camera.
That's right.
And it'll be great. I think it'll be a great way to build some skills and learn how to create a podcast and learn how to, run a production. So if you're interested in that, we would love to have you on board, and please discuss it with us. Let us know. Holler at us on Instagram. Email us at passthebagpodcast@gmail.com, or holler at us on IG at passthebagpodcast, or holler at us on Twitter at passthebagpod.
Hey, a lot of work goes into this, and we're looking forward to working with you. Especially because you're looking forward to working with us, and it's a family affair.
We need you, so we need your support, and it would be great. So let us know.
Let's go, baby. Shenzhen.
Peace.